Pokemon Ninjutsu Master Chapter 1051-1100. Chapter 1051. Luokan took Ichigo back to Kazuki Urahara's store, and at the same time called all his friends. Ishida Yulong was taken away by a soul hunter. Orihime was very surprised by the news, but she didn't expect things to turn out like this. Ichigo punched reluctantly and said regretfully, "I should have tried my best to stop the opponent, but I didn't." Rukia understands that relying on Ichigo's current strength, it is impossible to defeat the soul hunter, let alone save people, and she agrees with Luokan's approach. Ishida Yulong was arrested instead of me. What they want is the power of the Quincy. Luo Chen shared the information. Urahara Kazuki looked at Luokan and said lightly, "Then you shouldn't go, as long as you don't let them get your power." Luokan vetoed this suggestion. If they knew that Ishida Yulong did not have the power of a Quincy, they would definitely encounter danger. "No, I must defeat those soul hunters, and then rescue Ishida Yulong. I will never let him suffer any harm. This matter was caused by falling dust, so he should be asked to solve it." Urahara Kazuki's attitude is also very firm. He considers the development of the matter from the overall situation, so he does not agree to go to the dust. At this time, Yi Yi appeared, and seeing the tense atmosphere in the room, he asked, "Have you all heard about S-Linting?" Luo Chen and his group turned their attention to Yi Yi and asked what was going on. Ichino's Maki, the god of death who left the spirit court before, has now confirmed that he has become the soul hunter's helper. Yi Yi said solemnly. Orihime looked puzzled and asked, "Why did the Shinigami cooperate with the soul hunter? Does it have anything to do with Aizen?" Yi Yi shook her head. According to her investigation, this incident was not directly related to Aizen, and it was not so easy to start Bengyu, so Aizen didn't have time to plan this incident. "What exactly is a soul hunter? Why haven't you heard of it before?" Orihime continued to ask. Yi Yi didn't know much information about the soul hunter. She went back to Linting to find information about the soul hunter, but all the information was deleted. "So there's nothing left to do now," Renji said impatiently. He hated waiting the most, and he was very impatient. Everyone's mood is the same, even if they are impatient, there is nothing they can do, they can only continue to wait for the investigation. XXX. I'll go look for the soul hunter's home, I can't let Yulong Ishida stay there. Ichigo said firmly. He was even more worried about the safety of his companions. Even though Yaiki thinks this is very dangerous, he can understand their feelings. "Okay, let's look for it together, and then inquire about the news, but you must be careful, opponents are not so easy to deal with," Yi Yi said firmly. Urahara Kazuki sighed aside. He didn't expect to be like this all night, how could he continue to object? It's not bad for everyone to act together, anyway, sooner or later they will have to go through this, Yi Yi said carelessly. Urahara Kazuki shrugged helplessly. Even if he objected now, it would be useless, so he could only provide help with all his strength. Chapter 1052. I see, Lilin, Ziba, Tibetans, the three of you will do your best to help Luokan and the others to find soul hunters. Yes. Lilin, Ziba and the Tibetans answered in unison that they were created to accomplish this. Everyone was full of energy, stood up and walked outside. At this time, Yi Yi's communicator rang, and the Soul Society gave her a new task, and she had to go back. Yi Yi, don't worry, I will take good care of them, Luo Chen said firmly. This time he would not let Yi Hu and them get hurt. Yi nodded a little and left, and asked Luokan to notify her in time if something happened, and she would rush over to help as soon as possible. I'll help too, Urahara Kazuki suddenly interjected. Luokan looked at Kazuki Urahara with disgust. He had been against them just now, but now his face has changed so quickly, he really deserves to be a businessman. Just like that, Yi Yi left, and Luo Chen and the others began to look for the soul hunter's lair. Luokan and the others were divided into 4 teams, Ichigo and Lilin and Rukia, Orihime and Tibetans, Renji, Chato and Noba, while Luokan was his own team. The 4 teams are responsible for searching in their respective areas, and they will contact their companions if they find anything. Luokan summoned the 9 tails. After all, the 9 tails' sensing ability was stronger than his own, and his sense of smell was hundreds of times stronger than his own. It's all up to you. I must save Ishida Yulong. Luokan looked at Ju Wei with anticipation. 9 tails also felt the thoughts of falling dust, sniffed carefully, and seriously searched for the smell of soul hunters. Soon after, 9 tails said, I found the master in that direction. Luo Chen looked in the direction of the 9 tails finger. That was the area where Ichigo and the others were in charge, so he quickly contacted the others and asked them to have a round with Ichigo. The soul hunter's lair is in this area, everyone follow me. Luo Chen led the crowd and set out for the soul hunter's lair. Luo Chen and others were led by Ju Wei to find a villa, and there was an abnormal spiritual pressure from the villa. Katakana middle dot katakana middle dot katakana middle dot seeking flowers katakana middle dot 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 katakana middle dot. This is the home of the soul hunters. That's right, everyone must act carefully. Luokan said seriously. Now I don't know how many people there are on the other side, and their fighting ability is not very strong, so be careful. Orihime and the others nodded and looked at Luokan seriously. Luokan said, don't forget that the mission this time is to rescue Ishida Yulong. If there is a battle, we must retreat quickly. We have not yet discovered the enemy's weakness, so we must not confront it, especially Ichigo and Renji. 0. Ichigo and Renji looked at each other and said with disgust, why do you want to compare this guy with me? What did you say? What do you call this guy? Renji and Ichigo said in unison. The flames between the two were very strong. Rukia directly knocked them on the head twice. At this time, the two of them still have energy to quarrel. It is better to think about how to rescue Ishida Yuryu. It would be better if everyone escaped smoothly. 100 million. Chapter 1053. Luokan and his group simply made a plan and set off for the villa. Before that, Orihime looked at Lilin and the others and asked, why do you keep your puppet appearance? Lilin and the others are still very helpless. If they can, they naturally want to use the appearance of human beings, but once they are turned into righteous soul pills, they will not be able to move, and naturally they will not be able to enter the body. You can help each other 3 to 5 times, and put the Yoshimura in the righteous skeleton. Orihime suggested. Now Lilin, Ziba and Tibetans are all stupid. They didn't think of this. If they did, they would have done it already. In this way, the 3 of Lilin helped each other enter the body of Yoshikage. Really, we didn't even think of this, it's really reckless. The Tibetan laughed at himself. Lilin said stubbornly, actually, I have thought of this for a long time, but I just don't want to help. I didn't expect you to say it. Ziba directly pulled the mask on. Cheyenne didn't know what to say. Luokan withdrew the corner of his mouth in embarrassment, re-encouraged things, and set off for the soul hunter's nest. In this way, Luokan and the others divided into 3 small teams and entered the soul hunter's lair. Ichigo and Rukia and Lilin are in a team, while Luokan and Renji are in a team. Chato and Orihime and Tibetans and Ziba are in a team. Ichigo and Chato are mainly responsible for finding the location of Ishida Yuryu, while Luokan and Renji are mainly responsible for attracting the enemy's attention. The various teams started to move. They searched in the house, but after searching for a long time, they found no trace, not even the trace of the soul hunter. Aren't they afraid to come out? Renji said proudly, looking around the surroundings dismissively. Luo Chen gave Renji a slap without hesitation, and told him to be so slack. If the enemy suddenly attacked him, it would be troublesome. Renji said aggrievedly, I just want to relax the atmosphere a little bit, so don't worry about me. Luokan didn't know what to say. Renji like this really made people want to laugh and get angry. Suddenly, Luo Chen noticed that something was flying towards them, so he quickly cheered up Renji and prepared to fight. Finally, the battle is about to begin, and I'm getting impatient waiting. Renji said energetically. Luokan really regretted bringing Renji out, he was just making trouble for himself. The vigilance of Renji's situation made Luokan even more troublesome. The enemy finally approached. It was just some flying insects, but it looked like it was not just as simple as flying insects. Renji slashed at these flying insects casually, and easily cut them down, which made Renji even more proud. Haha, I said that the soul hunter must be afraid to hide, to send such a weak puppet to attack. As soon as Renji finished speaking, another swarm of flying insects rushed over. No matter how Renji slashed, new ones would fly out, and he couldn't finish it. Accidentally, Renji was bitten by a flying insect. He instantly felt that the spiritual pressure in his body was draining, and he realized that something was wrong. No, they will absorb Reiatsu, let's run. Renji shouted. Ellipsis 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 dot. Chapter 1054. Luokan stood behind Renji to block the flying insects, used a trick of the ghost fire jade to burn most of the flying insects, then turned his head and ran away. In the next few minutes, Luokan and Renji ran frantically, but no matter where they ran, they would encounter flying insects. There's no other way, let's talk outside first. Luo Chen broke the window and ran to the roof with Renji. The flying insects stopped chasing after seeing Renji and Luokan disappear, and returned to their positions to continue patrolling. What is that 22 thing? Although the attack power is not high, but the ability is very annoying. Renji complained that he had learned a lesson this time. Luokan pouted, he really should let Renji take a good lesson in it again, and let him continue to be so arrogant. After a while, Orihime and Chato ran out with the help of Ziba, and joined Luokan and the others on the roof. Luokan, did you still get chased by flying insects? Orihime asked suspiciously. Luokan nodded. It seems that these flying insects are the guards of this villa. Although they are small, there are too many in number and the ability to trouble them. It is really tricky. What should we do now? Orihime waited for new instructions. Luokan shrugged helplessly. He hasn't found a good solution yet, and he doesn't know what's going on with Ichigo. Ichigo and the others should be fine. Renji said worriedly. Just as he was talking, Ichigo and Rukia rushed out of the glass and ran to the roof. All of them finished their rounds. Why are you all here? Ichigo showed a surprised expression when he saw Luokan and the others. He thought they had attracted all the flying insects. Luokan sighed helplessly, worried about Ichigo and their IQ. At this moment, the flying insects discovered Ichigo's location and rushed over immediately. A large group of flying insects were chasing after Luokan and them frantically, and Luokan and the others could only escape, because no matter how they attacked, the number of these flying insects did not decrease. On the other hand, the soul hunters who were watching secretly were very proud of this scene. They originally thought that these gods of death could bring them some surprises, but it turned out to be nothing more than that. Orihime was tired after running for so long, and she couldn't run out of breath. Seeing that the flying insects were catching up, Luo Chen hurriedly summoned the 9 tails, and then blocked behind Orihime. Chadu took advantage of this moment to take Orihime away. You all hurry up and go look for Ishida Yulong, here I will find a way. Luo Chen said loudly. Ichigo was a little worried, but he left after seeing Luokan's desperate resistance. Luokan was relieved to see Ichigo and the others escaped smoothly, and said lightly, you shouldn't have brought them with you from the beginning, or you wouldn't have to be so timid and afraid to use all your power. Kyuubi said happily, is the master going to fight, to raise this place to the ground? Luo Chen didn't know how to answer when Luo Chen heard what Jue said. Fights are absolute, but it's better to raise them to the ground. Ichigo and the others are still in the house. It's enough to defeat them all. These bugs are really annoying. Luo Chen said with disgust. Ninetails immediately understood and rushed out without hesitation. It didn't pay attention to these bugs. Ellipsis 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 dot. Chapter 1055. Jue opened his mouth and spit out one, burning most of the flying insects, but countless flying insects rushed up behind him, which made Luokan very annoyed. "Nine tails, burn them all for me," Luo Chen shouted angrily. After receiving the order, the nine tails became even happier, and increased the output more forcefully. In the end, Jue directly trampled the roof and collapsed, and Luo Chen and Jue fell. "Yo, it looks like our guests have finally arrived." Yano Shen looked at Luo Chen and said with interest. There were different soul hunters standing around, and Koga was among them. Luokan looked at them and laughed, and finally let him find these guys, and now he can catch them all. "Nine tails," Luo Chen shouted angrily, and Nine Tails immediately adjusted his state, and a raging fire burned on his body. Yano Shen calmly reached out his hand to stop Luo Chen. "You should be a soul hunter too. Since everyone is of the same race, why do you help others? Yano Shen threw an olive branch to Luokan, hoping to let him join. How could Luokan be tempted to such a degree, not to mention that he is not a soul hunter? "I'm the real god of death," Luokan said proudly. He has never been so proud of being a god of death like he is now. When Yano Shen heard Luo Chen's words, traces of anger appeared on his head. He raised his hand and attacked Luo Chen. A fireball of nine tails went past, directly blocking Yano's attack, and it exploded in midair, sending smoke everywhere. "HMPH, it's still a bit of a skill," Yano Shen said disdainfully, preparing to launch an attack on Luo Chen again. At this time, Utagawa stood up and asked him to help Yano Shen deal with the falling dust. "Then leave it to you, don't let me down." Yano Shen looked at Utagawa with interest, wanting to see how he defeated death. XXX. Luokan shrugged his shoulders. It would be very nerve-wracking for him to be looked down upon like this. "Mr. Yano, please hand over your coat of arms, so that this god of death can rest assured that we will not bully the less," Utagawa said to Yano God indifferently. Yano God glanced at Utagawa, still put the coat of arms in his hand on the ground, then sat on the chair beside him to watch the battle, and the soul hunter beside him also looked like he was watching a play. Luokan said lightly, Diaresis, you can go together, I won't mind, it's easier than picking up one by one." Utagawa snorted disdainfully and replied, "We soul hunters are very free and won't mind each other's nostalgia, and the same goes for battles, so don't worry, they won't interfere." Now that he said so, Luo Chen was no longer polite, and gave an order to Jue, who immediately rushed out. Utagawa also summoned the puppet Fu Goodly Lido, who looked at Luokan indifferently on Utagawa's body, and at the same time activated his ability to turn things around him into snakes and rushed towards Nine Tails. Nine Tails opened his mouth and it was a fireball that burned all the snakes to death. Nine Tails are not suppressing the power in the body now, so it is difficult for Fulladuo's attack to hurt it. With a bang, Kyubi slammed Utagawa into the wall beside him, and hit a big hole in the wall. Ellipsis 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 dot. Chapter 1056. Is this your strength? It's really useless, Yano Shen said to Utagawa, his eyes full of disdain. Utagawa has long held hatred for Yano God, so he wanted to take this opportunity to kill him, but now is not the best time. "Don't underestimate me." Utagawa stood up again, waving Waiduo continuously, leaving a trace in many places. "Come out." A beam of light came out of Folio's eyes, and then he saw snakes crawling out of the traces. Luokan looked at these snakes indifferently, but there were more of them, and they were no match for the Nine Tails. "Nine Tails, let them know what true power is," Luokan said enthusiastically. He must let these soul hunters know that they are not to be messed with, and not give them a chance to find trouble for themselves. Jue got Luokan's permission again and opened his mouth to release the tailed beast Jade, which made Luokan startled, and quickly asked Jue to make the tailed beast Jade smaller. How to say Ichigo and the others are also nearby, if it affects them, it will be bad. Nine Tails also cooperated very well to shrink the tailed beast Jade little by little, and at this time Utagawa had already let Fudo launch an attack, and thousands of snakes launched an attack on Nine Tails. Luo Chen saw that the size of the nine-tailed beast Jade was about the same, so let it be released. The tailed beast jade slowly floated towards the group of snakes, which made the soul hunters on the side burst into laughter, laughing at Luokan's attack. Luokan smiled coldly, and began to hide behind Jue. After a while, they would know the power of this move. Seeing that the snake group was getting closer and closer to the tailed beast jade, Utagawa also shouted loudly in order to prove his strength. Go, there is nothing left of the bones they ate. The group of snakes moved faster, causing a huge explosion the moment they touched the tailed beast jade. With a boom, the entire roof was blown away, and the walls next to it were also blown through. What an amazing destructive power! Koga said in surprise. He had never seen such power in the last battle with Luo Chen. Yano Shen is also interested in Luokan. If Luokan can be used, he may be able to take revenge on Soul Society. Katakana middle dot katakana middle dot katakana middle dot seeking flowers katakana middle dot 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 katakana middle dot. Utagawa looked at Luokan unwillingly, and Fuli Duo was also seriously injured. If Fufu works harder, we can definitely beat him. At this time, Yano God spoke up and told Utagawa to stop, laughing at Utagawa's incompetence, not worthy of the title of Soul Hunter at all. What did you say? Utagawa had been Shinobu Yano for a long time, and now he aimed at the coat of arms on the ground, ready to destroy it. 0. Yano Shen laughed at Utagawa without hesitation, which made Utagawa completely angry, and controlled Uido to destroy the coat of arms. Ha ha ha, let's see how you can fight now. Fuido kills him. Utagawa laughed wildly, his plan finally succeeded. Fufuduo rushed towards Yano God, and at the critical moment, a god of death ran out from the side and split Fufudo with a single knife. Originally, Fuli Duo was attacked by the tailed beast jade, but now he can't take the damage anymore and disappeared directly. I saw the god of death stabbed Utagawa with a knife. 100 million. Chapter 1057. Utagawa was killed on the spot, his body turned into ashes and was blown away. At the time of his death, Utagawa didn't even know the difference between himself and Yano God. Sir Yano, are you alright? Ichino's Maki looked at Yano Shen with concern. Yano God waved his hand, just because Utagawa still couldn't do him any harm, but Luokan in front of him was more powerful. I'll give you another chance at the end. If you come to help me, I will give you the supreme strength. Yano God ran out of the olive branch again. Luokan rejected Yano Shen without hesitation. Although he can't be called the number 1 in the world now, he is called the number 2 in the world, and no one dares to call him number 1. Ichino's is watching you. Yano Shen gave an order, and Ichino's Maki rushed out immediately. Luokan still had some impression of this god of death. He should have been Shenmue Jonpachi's subordinate before. Why are you here? Luokan asked suspiciously. The moment when Ichino's Maki saw Luokan, she was also extremely surprised. After all, Luokan was a well-known existence in the spirit court. Lord Luokan, Ichino's Maki called out suspiciously. Luo Chen smiled with satisfaction. It seems that Luoshan, the god of death, is really very famous. Since he is an old acquaintance, it will be much easier. Get out of here with me, this is not the place you should stay. Luo Chen said firmly. Ichino's Maki shook his head. If this is not where he lives, then there will be no place for him to embody in this world. Ichino's, hurry up, Yano Shen urged. Ichino's Maki knew that he couldn't defeat Luokan, but Yano Shen had already given an order, so he had to go all out. Shine, Hongxia. I saw Maki Ichino's Zanpakudo emitting a dazzling light, and the surroundings were filled with light, and I couldn't open my eyes at all. I'm sorry, Lord Luokan. Ichino's Maki rushed towards Luokan and slashed without hesitation. Luokan doesn't judge the other person's figure by his eyes. As long as he has enough Reiatsu, he can dodge. It's okay, just take a good rest here, and I'll take you away. Luo Chen dodged, and then he punched Ichino's Maki in the stomach, knocking him to the ground. The surrounding soul hunters understood the strength of Ichino's Maki, but they didn't expect to defeat him with a single blow. Damn guy. Yano Shen frowned tightly and jumped out to fight Luo Chen. At this moment, Ichigo suddenly descended from the sky and fell directly in front of Luoken. Why did you fly over from the sky? Luo Chen looked at Ichigo suspiciously. Ichigo pouted. He didn't know why, he just told the truth, and then was blasted away by Rukia. Is there another helper? Let's go together, Yano Shen said indifferently, his eyes were full of anger. Ichigo was also very excited when he saw Yano God, and he was about to fight with his Zanpakuto. Luoken hurried to block, but unfortunately Ichigo had already rushed out to fight Yano Shen. Ichigo, you are so reckless. Luoken sighed helplessly. With Ichigo's strength, it was impossible for him to defeat Yano Shen. Ichigo doesn't care so much. Since he sees the enemy, he has to fight. Even losing is more glorious than running away. Ellipsis 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 dot. Chapter 1058. As Luoken had expected, Yanojin blocked Ichigo's Zanpakuto with his bare hands, and counterattacked against Ichigo. With a bang, Yano God smashed Ichigo into the wall, then quickly sprinted in front of Ichigo and pointed a finger to the center of his forehead. I can't move. Ichigo was very puzzled. He wanted to stand up but found that his body didn't obey his commands. At the same time, Rukia and the others successfully found Ishida Yulong 22, but Ishida Yulong insisted on taking Yoshino away. Everyone couldn't beat Ishida Yulong, so they had to help him find it together. Fortunately, the two of them were not far from each other. Far away. Ziba, hurry up and inform Luoken and the others, we should retreat. Rukia said firmly. Ziba found Luoken with her ability, and conveyed the news of Yulong Ishida. Seeing Ichigo's miserable appearance, Luoken sighed helplessly. Let's wait until the next time to teach these soul hunters a lesson. Ichigo, let's go, Luo Chen said, using Nine Tails to drag Ichigo over. When he wanted to drag Ichino's Maki again, Yano God blocked in front of Ichino's Maki. Do you want to stop me? Luoken looked at Yano Shen coldly. He didn't mind killing Yano Shen now. Ichino's Maki stood up weakly and said softly, Lord Luoken, please go, I won't leave here. Luoken frowned, and finally left with Ichigo. After seeing Luoken and the others leaving, Ichino's Maki apologized to Yano God, but Yano God didn't blame him. Yano God kept him for other purposes. This operation went very smoothly, but Ichigo felt it was a very serious blow. After the battle with Yano God, he found that his strength was really too weak to protect his companions at all. Luoken and others came to Urahara Kazuki's store. Hurry up and put them in this room for treatment. Urahara Kazuki instructed everyone to put Ishida Yuryu and Yoshino in the treatment room. Luoken saw that Rukia and the others were also injured and asked them what happened. It turned out that Ichino's Maki had been monitoring Ishida Yuryu before. When Rukia and the others wanted to save people, the two sides fought fiercely. When Ichino's Maki felt that Yano was in danger, he left immediately. Go to the rescue. It turned out to be the case, I know. Luo Chen said thoughtfully, it seems that the matter of Ichino's Maki should be properly investigated. Luoken used the contact phone given by Jai Chongguo to send a signal to the Soul Society, and Jai Chongguo's impression appeared in front of him shortly after. Luoken is really long time no see, have you figured it out? Jai Chongguo showed a kind smile. Luoken smiled embarrassingly. It is estimated that he might not be able to figure it out for the rest of his life. He really wants to disappoint Jai Zongguo. Master Chief, I need your help this time. I don't know if it's inconvenient for you. Politeness still needs to be said. After all, Jai Zongguo is a person who holds great power, and Luoken still knows the truth that acquaintances are easy to handle. Jai Zongguo did not hesitate to let Luoken say that as long as he can do it, he will do his best. Then please ask the Commander-in-Chief to help me check the information of Maki Ichino's. Ellipsis 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 dot. Chapter 1059. Saijiguni really had no impression of the name Maki Ichino's, and immediately asked the Shinigami on the side for information. Yes, Maki Ichinos is the Shinigami who defected a long time ago. He was originally a member of the 11th Division. Shinigami reported truthfully. Jaizanguo immediately asked Shinmu Kenpachi to come over, but Luokan stopped him. He wanted to go to the Soul Realm in person to find out some information about Ichinos Maki. That's great, I'll be waiting. Jaichanguo said with a smile. For him, Luokan's coming to the Soul Realm was a big deal. Luokan smiled awkwardly. If he went to the Soul Realm and met Jaizanguo, it would definitely complicate things, so he thought of some ways. In this way, Luo Chen carefully came to the Soul Realm, and hurried forward to Shinmu Kenpachi's residence before he was found, avoiding the sight of the god of death along the way. After a frantic run, Luokan arrived at Shinmu Janpachi's house smoothly. Why did you come suddenly, Tilda? Shinmu Janpachi's first reaction when he saw Luokan was to be stunned for a moment, then put on an indifferent look. Ba Qinliu showed his head from behind Shinmu Kenpachi, and said happily, "It's great, now I can see Xiao Ba's smile again." Shinmu Kenpachi retorted awkwardly, but Luokan could feel that he was really happy. You two are really old. I came here this time to ask you something, so let's go into the room and talk. Luo Chen walked into the room very naturally. XXX. Shinmu Janpachi didn't say anything, and followed Luo Chen into the room. Tell me, what's the matter? Shinmu Janpa put on a normal expression, as if Luo Chen owed him 8 million. After Luo Chen coughed twice, he officially entered the theme. You should have heard about Maki Ichinos. I want to know what happened to him in the past and why he sided with the Soul Hunter. Shinmu Janpachi seemed to have long expected that Luokan would ask this question, with a disdainful expression on his face, and he didn't say a word for a long time. Let Ba Qinliu tell you. Ba Qinliu looked at Luokan with a smile. Luokan nodded, but Shinmu Janpachi didn't object, sitting aside with a serious expression. It turns out that Shinmu Kenpachi was able to serve as the captain of the 11th Division because he killed the original 11th Division captain. This incident was a blow to Maki Ichinos, which is why he left the Soul Society. Diaresis, isn't this a very common thing? What's wrong with it? Luokan knew the rules of the 11th Division, so he didn't notice anything wrong. Shinmu Janpachi spoke slowly from the side. There were some things that Ba Qinru couldn't understand, so he couldn't express it. After Shinmu Kenpachi killed the former captain of the 11th Division, Ichinos Maki Goodly Hao once challenged him, but Shinmu Kenpachi rejected him, on the grounds that Ichinos Maki was too weak. After that, Ichinos Maki also worked very hard, but he still couldn't accept the killing of the former captain of the 11th Division, so he resigned from Kenpachi Shinmu. Kenpachi Shinmu never cared about someone leaving, so he approved it directly, and then Maki Ichinos secretly left the Soul Society. Chapter 1060. It turned out that this matter was caused by you, and now you are responsible for this matter. Luokan said naturally. Shinmu Janpachi snorted coldly. He wouldn't pay attention to such a weak guy. If it was Luokan, it would be fine. Hey, how do you say Ichinos Maki left because of you? Why are you so cold-blooded? Luo Chen said helplessly. Shinmu Kenpachi doesn't care what others say about him, but he doesn't care about Ichinos. There is still some guilt about the tree thing. After all, the god of death has gone astray. By the way, does Lingting have any latest news about soul hunters? Luo Chen questioned. This time, he couldn't come in vain, and he had to get all the information. How could someone like Shinmu Kenpachi who are only interested in fighting would take care of other things? So he shook his head without hesitation, and he would not care about the soul hunter. You're a real guy. If you have a chance, go and fight the soul hunter, so that I can save my worries. Luokan said helplessly. After Luokan finished speaking, he was about to leave, but Shinmu Janpa blocked his way. Are you going to leave after inquiring about the matter? Luokan nodded without hesitation. Didn't he leave and wait for Shinmu Janpachi to invite him to dinner? Shinmu Kenpachi suddenly took out the Zanpakuto, looked directly at Luo Chen, and did not remind him at all. With a sound of boom, the Zanpakuto smashed a hole in the ground, but fortunately Luo Chen escaped with his vigorous skills and was not hit. Luokan sighed helplessly. He knew that things would turn out like this. That's why he didn't like Soul Realm, and he didn't even want to come to S-Linting. Luo Chen summoned the Nine Tails and let him delay the time. Kyuubi immediately released a fireball at Shinmu Kenpachi, but it was not very powerful, so Shinmu Kenpachi easily split the fireball. However, this incident was enough for Luo Chen to escape and forcefully, and then summoned the Nine Tails back and successfully escaped from Shinmu Kenpachi's house. Damn guy, he ran away again, can't he have a good fight with me? Shinmu Janpachi said angrily, the blue veins on his head protruding. Yachin Liu climbed up to Shinmu Kenpachi's sadness to comfort him. The next time you meet, just fight again, anyway, there are more chances. Shen Mujianba nodded. He believed that Luokan would soon reply to S-Linting, and he would not be polite at that time. Although Luokan left Shinmu Janpachi's house, a sudden chill came from his body, which made him shudder. This place really doesn't suit me, so let's leave quickly, Luo Chen said and ran towards the gate. At this time, Jingle Chunchui appeared, and the two just bumped into each other. I've been caught, I've been discovered, Luo Chen said in a panic, and wanted to run away. Unexpectedly, Jingle Chunchui grabbed Luokan and asked him what he wanted to do in such a panic. Luokan felt more relieved when he saw Jingle Chunchui. After all, he could understand his own feelings, so he told him that he was avoiding Jijiangguo. Ha ha ha, if the old man finds out about this, he will definitely be very sad. Jingle Chunchui said gloatingly, posing like a crowd eating melons. Luokan raised his brows, completely disregarding Jingle Chunchui, feeling that he was too strange. Ellipsis 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 dot. Chapter 1061. When Luokan wanted to leave again, he was stopped by Jingle Chunchui, which made Luokan very irritable. He shook off Jingle Chunchui's hand and asked impatiently, what do you mean? Jingle Chunchui put away his cynical expression, and replied seriously, now a lot of information in S-Linting has disappeared, so we suspect that someone is playing tricks. Luokan heard what Jingle Chunchui meant, and there was an angry expression on his face. He was just a short time ago in Linting, how could he have the time to steal the information of Linting? It was too much to doubt him. I'm sorry, Lord Luokan, come with me, Jingle Chunchui said with a smile. Luokan naturally went with him in order to prove his innocence, but Jingle Chunchui took him to the central library. Why did you bring me here? If you want to be interrogated, at least you have to go to the interrogation room, right? Luo Chen laughed at himself, said. Jingle Chunchui didn't say anything, and walked into the central library with Luokan, then closed the door tightly. I'm sorry, but I had no choice but to invite Lord Luokan over, please forgive me. Jingle Chunchui apologized very politely. This made Luokan feel a little uncomfortable. He turned around and saw Shuru Yukitaki walking towards him. What do you mean? Luokan was still a little confused about what they wanted to do. Shuru Yukitaki explained, recently, there are signs that the data has been deleted in the S-Linting, and we can't find any traces at all, so I want to ask for your help. It turned out that it was this matter. Luokan thought they wanted to do something big. No problem, what do you want me to do? Luokan said cheerfully, for the sake of them helping him save Rukia, so he helped them this time. Shuru Yukitaki said solemnly, please help us monitor the soul hunters. They shouldn't be able to come to the soul realm, but I don't know how they deleted the data. Luokan's expression became serious when he heard the name of the soul hunter. He didn't expect their hands to stretch so long that they were able to enter the S-Linting. Where's the data from Namori? If the memory of the god of death is not wrong, the Technology Development Bureau has kept a lot of information that the outside world does not know, and the information of the soul hunter is also among them. Shuru Yukitaki shook his head. He had already asked Jingle Chunchui to inquire about the news, but the information was also deleted. Katakana middle dot katakana middle dot katakana middle dot seeking flowers katakana middle dot 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 katakana middle dot. It's all been deleted. It seems that this person has a close relationship with the soul hunter. Relationship. Luokan said thoughtfully. As for the god of death on the soul hunter's side, Maki Ichino's is a breakthrough. Do you have any information about Maki Ichino's recently? Luokan asked. Shuru Yukitaki really didn't notice this. After all, there was no mention of Maki Ichino's in the intelligence, so they didn't investigate. Go and investigate his information. If there is no accident, his information is also blank, so things will be much easier to handle. Luo Chen said confidently. Although Luokan didn't want this thing to be done by Ichino's Maki, there really is no one else to suspect except him. Shuru Yukitaki and Chunshui Jingle acted immediately, while Luokan was leaving, and there was one more thing he wanted to confirm. Luokan came to the Technology Development Bureau and found Ni Yuli. What, you also want to see the information from the Technology Development Bureau? Ni Yuli asked in surprise. He knew that the information on the computer was missing, so he refused to show it to Luokan. 100 million. Chapter 1062. Luokan snorted coldly, laughing at Ni Yuli for not even protecting the data well. You came to me to ask for it even though you knew that my information was gone. What exactly do you want to do? Ni Yuli said angrily, already holding the Zanpakuto in his hand. Luo Chen was not afraid at all. He spread his hands on his chest, and then said casually, are you really going to attack me? It doesn't matter if the captain of Jai Zongguo knows about this matter. Ni Yuli frowned. The entire S-Lingting knew that Jai Chongguo loved Luokan. If anyone dared to hurt Luokan's hair, Jai Chongguo would surely wipe that person into ashes. Cut, you can find it yourself if you want to see it, it's gone anyway. Ni Yuli said unwillingly. Whether it was the deletion of the data or the threat of falling dust, both things made Ni Yuli very angry. Luokan happily thanked him, and quickly asked Nianinmeng to lead the way, and Nianinmeng also cooperated very well. Don't forget who is your master. Ni Yuli was very angry when she saw that Nianmeng listened to Luo Chen's words. Luo Chen said nonchalantly, it's okay, don't pay attention to that guy, if he dares to trouble you, I will take care of him. Thank you, Lord Luokan. Nianinmeng said lightly. This made Ni Yuli even more angry, and rushed directly to the middle of the two, forcibly separating the two. Tell me, what information are you looking for? Don't waste my time. Ni Yuli said angrily. Luo Chen couldn't help laughing when he saw Ni Yuli like this, and said all the information he wanted to find. Ni Yuli quickly searched on the computer, but the result was empty, nothing. The ones that have been deleted are really clean, isn't there any way for Lord Newly to restore them? Luokan asked in question. Ni Yuli was so angry when he was angry, but he considered himself a genius inventor, and nothing could stump him, but he was stuck in this matter. The data on the computer was completely deleted, and even the backup and recovery system was completely destroyed. If I find that hateful guy, I must let him not survive, nor die. Ni Yuli said viciously, at the same time beating the data station hard. Luo Chen took a helpless sigh of relief. After his inspection, it was true that there was no information at all here. It seemed that he really had to check the situation of S-Lingting's personnel. Luokan returned to the central library and asked Shiruro Yukitaki about the investigation. It's still under investigation. If I find anything, I'll notify you as soon as possible, don't worry. Shiruro Yukitaki said worriedly. Luokan nodded, seeing that S-Lingting had no more help, and was ready to leave. At this moment, the communicator rang, and Luokan saw that it was Saijiguni, so he ran away from the S-Lingting without stopping, returned to Urahara Kazuki's store, and then apologized to Saijiguni. Seeking for evaluation ticket, seeking reward, seeking everything. Chapter 1063. Jai Zongguo was very disappointed. Luo Chen finally went to the S-Lingting, but he still hadn't received Luo Chen well, which made him feel very sorry. It doesn't matter, Captain, I have a hunch that we will meet again soon. Luo Chen said seriously. Jai Zongguo didn't say much. Now the situation is urgent, and all the S-lings are on full alert, so he has to investigate carefully. In this way, Luokan and Jai Zongguo cut off contact. Yo, I can't tell that the old man likes you very much. Why didn't you go to see him this time? Urahara Kazuki said 22 sourly. Luokan counterattacked unceremoniously. If you want to see him, I can bring him here, isn't that a good idea? When Urahara Kazuki heard this, he immediately confessed, and hurriedly told Luokan not to bring Jaijiguo to the world. Luokan couldn't help laughing when he saw Kazuki Urahara's timid appearance. When he was a child, Saijiguni taught Kazuki Urahara a lot, and he was another face to the god of death, Luokan. What happened to Ishida Yuryu and Yoshino? Luokan stopped bickering with Urahara Kazuki and asked about the situation of the two. Both Ishida Yulong and Yoshino have nothing to do, just some skin injuries, they will be fine after a few days of rest. Then I'll ask you to take good care of them. There is one more thing I want to ask you. Luo Chen said seriously. Urahara Kazuki nodded and let Luokan say directly, anyway, Luokan will achieve his own goal in the end. It's too dangerous for Chadu and Orihime to live alone, so I hope you can let them both stay with you for a while. Luo Chen said. Urahara Kazuki agreed without hesitation. This was something Luokan never thought of, and he thought he had changed. XXX. Then please settle the cost of their accommodation to me first. Urahara Kazuki said with a greedy look in his eyes. Luokan was speechless for a moment, but thinking about it, Kazuki Urahara already had so many people here, and he couldn't let him take care of Orihime and Chato anymore. Here you are. Luo Chen took out the money from his backpack. Fortunately, he had completed a lot of tasks before and gained a lot of money. Kazuki Urahara didn't expect that Luo Chen would really give it to him. He thought he would beat him up as usual, and then domineeringly asked him to agree. What happened to you? Urahara Kazuki was still a little worried about such a fallout, so he asked. Luokan shook his head, stood up and left. He came to Ishida Yulong's room. How are you feeling? Is there any discomfort in your body? Luokan asked with concern. Ishida Yulong shook his head. He didn't suffer any damage, and Fengye blocked most of the damage for him. That's good, let's have a good rest here. As for the other things, I'll take care of it. Luokan insisted on the ropeway. He didn't want Ishida Yulong to be injured for himself. Ishida Yulong grabbed Luokan and asked Yoshino about the situation. Luokan didn't know much about Fengye's situation, so he asked him to visit Fengye with him. Okay. Ishida Yulong stood up and followed Luokan to Fengye's room. Fengye was lying on the bed with her eyes open. She was thinking about something, and she immediately sat up when she saw Luo Chen and Ishida Yulong come in. You don't have to be so polite, just lie down and rest. Luo Chen said gently. Ellipsis 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 dot. Chapter 1064. Yoshino also smiled faintly. Although he only spent a day together, Yoshino felt very good about Luokan. Miss Yoshino, is there any problem with your physical injury? Ishida Yulong looked at Yoshino and asked worriedly, and the question was a little unnatural. Yoshino shook her head. She only received some injuries. As a soul hunter who often fights, this is nothing at all. It's great. Ishida Yulong felt relieved when he saw that Fengye was fine, and he could rest in peace. I'm sorry, I want to talk to Luokan alone. Can I ask you to go back to rest first? Yoshino sincerely said to Ishida Yulong. Ishida Yulong agreed and went back to the room to rest alone. Luokan looked at Fengye, not knowing what she wanted to say to him. I'm sorry for causing you trouble. I can see that your partners are very reliable, and I really envy your relationship, Tilda. Yoshino said sincerely. Luo Chen smiled lightly and replied, You can join if you want. We are open to anyone who comes. Hearing Luokan's humorous words, Fengye couldn't help laughing, feeling very relaxed physically and mentally. After a burst of laughter, Fengye said slowly, it's been a long time since I was so happy. Thank you so much. Luokan saw sadness and loneliness in Feng Yi's eyes, guessing what decision she had made. You want to challenge Yano God alone, right? Luokan asked directly. Yoshino nodded without concealment. This is a matter between soul hunters, so she wants to stop Yano God by her own strength. When Luokan saw Feng Yi's frankness, she really didn't know what to say. Anyway, no matter what she said, it wouldn't change her confidence. Since that's the case, then I'll accompany you. With a man here, how could you let a woman charge into battle? Luo Chen said very casually, and put on a very cool and handsome gesture. Feng Yi's heart moved when he saw Luo Chen, as if the girl from many years ago had returned. Really, people finally made up their minds. You will only make me lose my courage, Feng Yi said with a smile, feeling both sweet and sad in his heart. Luokan didn't say anything, let Feng Yi rest well and left the room by himself. After Luokan left, Yoshino stood up again and looked at the moonlight outside the window and made up her mind that no matter what she would become, she would organize Yano's plan. Luokan found Orihime and Chadu and asked them to live here for a while, and the two of them readily agreed. Diaresis, it's getting late, we should go. Luokan looked at Ichigo. And Ichigo was a little worried, and kept looking in the direction of Ishida Yuryu's room. Good Li Jiao. Kurosaki-san, leave it to us, we will not let Ishida-san get lost again. Orihime said firmly. Chadu was also earnestly beside him. Nod. Now Ichigo didn't have much to say, he handed Ishida Yuryu to Chado and Orihime, and followed Luokan home. Why did you follow me back? Ichigo asked excitedly when he saw Rukia behind him. List. Chapter 1065. Rukia finally followed Ichigo back home, but Luokan seemed to be very worried. He was worried about what would happen to Ishida Yulong. Don't worry, people won't have anything to do with me, hurry up and sleep. Urahara Kazuki angrily threw the phone and went back to his room to sleep. Luokan has never seen Kazuki Urahara lose such a big temper. It seems that sleep can really change a person, so let's just wash and sleep. The next day, Luokan went directly to Kazuki Urahara's store to check on Ishida Yuryu and Yoshino's situation. What about you? Come to me so early in the morning. Urahara Kazuki said dissatisfiedly, as if Luokan was not here, he would drive Ishida Yuryu and Yoshino out. Luo Chen smiled and didn't say anything. He went to check on Ishida Yulong and Yoshino's situation. He was relieved to make sure that they were all safe. Suddenly, Luo Chen felt a phantom energy, and Feng Yi, who was beside him, also sensed it. Aren't you going to kill Shu? Isn't that the responsibility of the god of death? Yoshino said lightly, without any emotion at all. Luokan stood up, glanced at Feng Yi, and asked, would you like to come together? Feng Yi was stunned for a moment, and quickly refused. She was not interested in this kind of killing at all, but Luo Chen wanted her to be with him. In the end, she was stubborn, but Luo Chen went with him. Feng Yi and Luo Chen came to Shu's position and saw Shu was chasing innocent human beings, and the human beings showed fear for the invisible Shu. Do you want to protect them? Luokan looked at Feng Yi and said. Feng Yi had an anxious expression on her face. Although she had seen a lot of human disappointment, she still couldn't get used to it, and anxiously asked Luokan to help quickly. My god of death is going to take a day off today, please. Luo Chen said lightly, and then walked to the side to do it, but his eyes kept staring at Shu's movements to prevent humans from being really eaten by it. Feng Yi saw that Luo Chen really let go, but was anxious, summoned a doll with both hands, and was ready to go forward to fight. Roar tilde, Shu turned his head after feeling Feng Yi's spiritual pressure. Saliva kept flowing out, as if he was looking at something delicious. Humans were startled when they saw a gate in front of Yoshino, thinking that this monster was chasing him. Don't kill me, don't kill me. Humans looked at Feng Yi in horror. Feng Yi sighed helplessly, she had seen too many scenes like this. She knew she would be scared, but she still couldn't help helping. Gate, kill it. Yoshino said firmly. Human beings are very frightened when they hear Yoshino say this. As the saying goes, when things go to extremes, they will reverse, and weak humans will launch a counterattack when they are pressed. I saw the humans rushing towards Fangye, and they rushed Fangye at once. Yangye, Gate cried out worriedly. Yoshino shook his head and asked Gate to continue attacking Shu. She had nothing to do. Seeing this scene, Luokan also stepped forward to help, drag the human up, and then lent him a bit of Reiatsu so that he could see the existence of the virtual. What is this? It's so scary. The human was instantly frightened by Shu and fell to the ground, and stepped back in horror. At this time, Gate also dealt with the virtual and returned to Yoshino's side. Luokan introduced Fangye solemnly. This is Miss Yoshino, who is in charge of the city's security and specializes in rescuing humans like you. Chapter 1066. Humans looked at Fangye with gratitude in his eyes, and no longer felt that Fangye was scary, but thought she was beautiful. Thank you for this beautiful Miss Yoshino, thank you very much, I really apologize for the previous misunderstanding. The human said sincerely, hoping Yoshino could forgive his ignorance. It was the first time Yoshino was treated like this by humans, and a feeling of joy instantly appeared in his heart. It's okay, thank you very much. Fangye smiled slightly. She liked this feeling very much. Before, she thought that saving human beings was indifferent, but after having such a feeling today, she thought it was just a very meaningful thing. Luokan was very happy to see Yoshino talking with the humans, and after they finished talking, she took her back to Kazuki Urahara's store. Ah, what happened to her? Urahara Kazuki was very surprised to see the girlish smile on Yoshino's face. Luokan said lightly, it's nothing, she just figured out some things. Yoshino went back to her room to express her gratitude to Luokan. After today's events, she had already made up her mind to help humans defeat Yano, and no one could stop her decision. I hope you can act with us and tell us more about soul hunters. Luokan said bluntly. Yoshino saw that Luokan was so direct and didn't do anything to hide it, and told him the past and present of the soul hunter, but she didn't know what plan Yano had. That's enough. Thank you very much for your help. I will try my best to ask S-Lingting to give you a place to live. Luo Chen said seriously. Having heard the history of soul hunters, Luokan doesn't think it's their fault, instead it's S-Lingting, the mistakes of the gods. In order to study how to make human beings immortal, S-Lingting accidentally created soul hunters, but these gods of death ordered the killing of soul hunters in order to prevent their mistakes from being made public, so that no soul hunters could survive. Yoshino was really happy to hear Luokan say this, but now the most important thing is to stop Yano's plan and not let him mess around at will. Katakana middle dot katakana middle dot katakana middle dot seeking flowers katakana middle dot 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 katakana middle dot. I'm a little tired today, see you tomorrow. Fangye began to drive away the dust. Luokan found a trace of sadness in her eyes, as if saying goodbye to this world, which made Luokan a little worried. But just when Luokan was about to say something, Fangye drove Luokan away again. Okay, I'll see you again tomorrow, I hope you don't do anything stupid. Luo Chen said seriously. Fangye smiled lightly, then waved at Luokan and said lightly, it's great to meet you. I'm very satisfied with this experience before dying. After Luokan left Fangye's room, he took a look at Yulong Ishida and told him that he could go to communicate with Fangye, and it was best to persuade her more. I see, thank you for your help to Miss Yoshino. Ishida Yulong said sincerely, originally thought Luokan and the others would object to Yoshino living here, but judging from their attitudes, they all welcomed Yoshino to live here to recover. 100 million. Chapter 1067. It was a brand new day, and Luokan received a call from Kazuki Urahara early in the morning, telling him that Yoshino was gone, and Yuryu Ishida also ran out. Luokan frowned. The thing he was worried about still happened. This situation is not good. Luo Chen and the others gathered at Kazuki Urahara's store and asked for details. Urahara Kazuki said helplessly, Early this morning, Xiaoyu went to call Yoshino for dinner and found that she had disappeared, and Ishida Yulong had already rushed out to find her. This guy will really cause trouble, Ichigo said angrily, still worrying more in his heart. Orihime said quickly, let's go look for it right away, Miss Yoshino shouldn't be in any danger, right? Luokan replied with a serious expression, it's hard to say. Yesterday I found out that something was wrong with her. I'm afraid she went back to find Yano God. Everyone's expressions became serious, and Luo Chen was the first to break the deadlock, so everyone should not worry. At this time, Lilin, Ziba, and the Tibetans felt the spiritual pressure of the soul hunter at the same time, and gave Ichigo their direction. Let's go, Luo Chen said with high spirits. After everyone responded with a sound, they set off for Yano's place. XXX. At this time, Yoshino has already fought against Yano God, and Yano God still has a trace of affection for Yoshino, but Yoshino's determination will not be shaken. Gate starts. Yoshino gave an order, and Gate immediately attacked Yano God. Gate held the fireball in his hand and kept throwing it at Yano God, but Yano God just waved his arm and easily threw the fireball away. Yoshino didn't know much about Yano's abilities, so it was a little shocking to see him knock off Gate's attack without summoning a puppet. Yano Shen was not stingy either. He told Yoshino his secret and dragged his shirt off, only to see that there was a coat of arms on his chest. You have become one with the doll, no wonder you have such power. Yoshino became more determined when he understood. Yano God made a final persuasion to Yoshino, hoping that Yoshino could return to his side, and he could ignore the previous things. It's a pity that we can't go back, our relationship will end here. Fang Yi's eyes showed tears, thinking that the days were so sweet, but now they are going to meet each other. Then don't blame me, Yano God said and activated his ability, and rushed towards Fang Yi quickly. At the critical moment, Luokan arrived and used the Nine Tails tail to pull Yoshino back, saving her life in time. Yoshino was very moved when he saw Luo Chen and others, and felt the meaning of his companions for the first time. Luokan smiled at Fang Yi, and said softly, you are not fighting alone, and we can rely on you. That's right, Miss Yoshino, you will never be alone again. Orihime said with a smile, and stepped forward to hold Yoshino's hand. Although Ichigo and the others didn't say anything, their eyes showed approval of Yoshino, which was very satisfying for Yoshino. Thank you very much, but this is a matter between us soul hunters, let me solve it myself. Yoshino stood up again, full of courage in his heart. Chapter 1068. Yano Shen looked at Luo Chen and the others and said indifferently, it turns out that these people bewitched you. I finally know why you left me, traitor. It was you, not me, who betrayed the soul hunter. Yoshino said loudly. Originally, the soul hunter clan has not broken the river water with the outside world, but now Yano God is swallowing it for his own ambition. He is the culprit of all this, eating the souls of living people and provoking the god of death. God Yano ignored Yoshino's words at all. He had already decided that Yoshino was a traitor, and there was only one fate for the traitor. How is Yuki? Yano Shen looked at the soul hunter wearing glasses. Yuki smiled complacently, took out a strange thing to debug, and told Yano God that it was done, and it was time to start. What started? Orihime asked weakly. Yano Shen laughed proudly, and loudly answered Orihime's doubts. It turns out that Yoshino has the motherhood of a soul hunter and can hatch new puppets, while Yuki's machine can carry out directional hatching. So you've been using me from the beginning? Fang Yi asked loudly, feeling very emotional. Yano Shen replied indifferently, yes, since I knew that you were useful to my plan, I was deliberately approaching you. I didn't expect you, a silly woman, to really like me. Yoshino laughed wildly. He thought that his true feelings were only deceit. Fang Yi, you have to calm down, they seem to be targeting you. Luokan stood in front of Fang Yi, staring at Yano Shen vigilantly. Yoshino, however, came out from behind Luokan and stared at Yano God indifferently. Since he has made his words clear, there is no need for her to miss her anymore. God Yano, take your life, and feel the feeling of death with me. Yoshino said and rushed out. Ishida Yulong stretched out his hand to catch Yoshino, but he only caught Yoshino and watched Yoshino rush out. Yano Shen also expected Yoshino's actions. He snorted in disdain, and stretched out his hand to prepare for battle. Fang Ye looked up at Gate and said softly, I'm so sorry, but I'm really thankful for asking you to accompany me like this. Gate didn't feel anything about this, and it was a very lucky thing for him to get to know Yoshino. Dolls are one, Yoshino shouted, and his body instantly turned into a ray of light and rushed towards Gate. After Gate and Yoshino were united, they felt that their body strength increased greatly, so they looked at Yano God, raised a flame fist and rushed over. Vent all your power out. Yano Shen said loudly. He needed all of Yoshino's power. Of course, Gate will not be merciful. Only by defeating Yano Shen can stop all this. Miss Yoshino, Ishida Yulong said worriedly, looking at Gate in the air. Luokan sighed, knowing that the soul hunter couldn't be separated from the outside when he was united with the doll, so he could only pray that Yoshino could defeat Yano God. However, God Yano absorbed a lot of the souls of living people, so he suppressed Yoshino a lot in terms of strength, and Yano fell to the ground within 2 minutes. Miss Yoshino, Ishida Yulong shouted loudly, wanting to step forward to help, but was blocked by Luokan and others. Chapter 1069. Because, a dark shadow appeared in the distance. That's flying insects. There are flying insects that continue to appear in the sky. Luokan was not idle either, although only the strength of 9 tails was able to suppress all the flying insects. But Luokan never really liked this kind of prisoner's stuff, so he also joined the ranks of exterminating insects. On the one hand, the 9 tails kept spitting out fireballs, and they burned the large piece of escort to the point of no slag, while Luo Chen picked up the Zanpakuto and waved it at will. Host, you have to wait a little longer. I didn't expect the opposite side to be a fuel-efficient lamp. Several black lines appeared on Luokan's face. Are you degraded? I haven't heard from you for so long, it seems that you disappeared on purpose. When the system heard Luo Chen say this in his heart, he was also angry, and said, it's fine with me, give me another minute. But before he finished speaking, Jue let out a happy cry, and happily ran up to Luokan's shoulder, rubbing his tail lightly against Luokan's cheek, looking very happy. The whereabouts and the system are a bit embarrassing. In just a while, Jue has already swept away all the flying insects at the normal speed of the Chengbu Lake, leaving no one behind. It seems that it's been too long these days. This vent is useless, but you're happy, Tilda. Luo Chen stroked Jue and praised him for his ability. It's not like a certain system, there are no opportunities for meritorious service. Can't get it. Although the background of the 9 tails and the system is quite close, but now the system is getting more and more cold towards this little guy, saying, Host, I have already investigated it. Are you sure? Luo Chen deliberately raised the volume, trying to deceive it, but the sound of the system dropped again. The more flying insects, the greater the amount of information that can be exchanged, and the more I can find out the other party's location, but the two of you are so capable. Okay, as long as you can find a lot of flying insects next time and perform reverse cracking, right? But don't tell me you won't gain anything for a few minutes. Luokan is now starting to worry about the safety of the other partners. After all, even Renji can only fight against such a large number of flying insects. Host, through the analysis of flying insects, it is now possible to find out where the same kind of congregation gathers, and now you don't have to hang around and try your luck. Luo Chen smiled slightly, in other words, you can take the initiative to attack. Through the system, Kei Chen learned the next location where the flying insects gathered. Kyubi was also very excited to rush to that place, because he enjoyed this kind of battle very much. Turning around a street corner, Luo Chen saw Ichigo and Lilin hurried forward from a distance. They had gone too fast just now. I guess Ichigo is looking for him now. So Luo Chen immediately chased after him. Diaresis yo. Ichigo, you, what's on this head? New equipment. Luokan saw that Yehu head, Good Li Jiao, had a turban on his head. Only 10 minutes apart. Oh, it's the new detection instrument sent by Xiaoyu and the others, the location of the soul hunter I'm on my way to. Ichigo forced himself to turn his head and replied. Only at this time did Luo Chen see that this hood had his own ideas and was pulling Ichigo forward, but luckily the direction Ichigo was going was in the same direction as the system guided. List. Chapter 1070. After a while, the two of them had already run across several street corners, about a few hundred meters away, which was nothing to Duyu and the others. There is a straight road ahead, but at the end of the road lies a dark shadow. If you don't look carefully in the dark night, you can't really find it. But both of them could see clearly that there were dozens of flying insects hovering above the shadow. That person is Keigo. How could he be here? Ichigo shouted in surprise. After all, he was a classmate. Who wouldn't be worried when he saw this scene? Lilin shouted, those bugs are absorbing his soul. When he said that, it was open. Although it was still dozens of meters away, Luo Chen had already made preparations and shouted, Nine Tails, come on. Juwei let out a cry, opened his mouth, and was about to strike at Kai Wu with the beast-tailed beast jade, and Luo Chen hurriedly blocked his hand in front of Juwei. Showing a cold sweat, he said, Nine Tails, restrain your excitement, this time down, let alone flying insects, even that person in the soil layer 3 feet underground will have to disappear for you. Nine Tails hooted, indicating a response, and immediately replaced the tailed beast jade with fireballs, and sprayed them out at the flying insects, and several small fireballs hit those flying insects equally. The flying insects dissipated immediately. At this time, Luokan and Ichigo also flew to Chiwu's side. Ichigo swung the knife and slashed. But no matter what, Keiwu's soul was absorbed, so Ichigo was very worried and was going to take him away for treatment, but at this time Luokan suddenly pushed Ichigo aside. Hey, what are you doing? Ichigo threw a spin, but immediately adjusted his posture. Between Ichigo's place, Luo Chen's Zanpakuto raised his sword and fell, cutting the incoming unknown object in two, so fierce. What's that? Luo Chen felt the enemy's attack, but the knife felt strange when he slashed it. Come out. I saw the body of a burly man slowly pacing out of the shadow. I'm Koga. Lilin shouted in panic, Soul Hunter. The man named Koga didn't talk too much, but had a confident look. Luokan just watched quietly, and he weighed the weight on the opposite side. Koga also looked at Luokan. The person in front of him made him unpredictable, like a strange flavored bean, not really ordinary, and he couldn't know the bottom line. You actually blocked my attack just now. Very powerful, unexpected. Although he said it easily, Koga really raised the level of danger by several notches. Show yourself, Daruku, beat them up here. He knew deeply that Luo Chen couldn't be underestimated, so he had to make a quick decision to avoid long nightmares. As soon as the words fell, countless black gas suddenly appeared around Koga, exactly the kind of thing that attacked Shang Luokan just now. The Qian pattern on the black sphere between them, and began to fuse and regenerate continuously, and finally created a creature in the shape of a bug, which is completely dark, making people shudder. He, you are so powerful that you were able to cut a part of me in half. Daruku said angrily. She was really angry. After he finished speaking, he shot another round ball with the power of lightning that was not as fast as his ears, and headed straight for Ichigo. ellipsis. Chapter 1071. Boom. Ichigo was caught off guard by the sudden attack, and the opponent's ball was indeed extremely solid, and coupled with the rapid speed, it was a big killer. Ichigo only came to hold the Zanpakuto M in front of his chest, and was hit while he was on the side. Fortunately, it wasn't a direct hit on the flesh. There is absolutely no ambiguity in putting a hole in the concrete wall. Koga showed a slight smile and nodded in satisfaction. X-Ray's vigilance against Luokan was raised by 3 points. After all, it is possible to take over all these characters head-on when they are completed. Ichigo was pushed back nearly 10 meters, barely able to stand on his feet. The round and pure black sphere fell straight to the ground, and Ichigo felt a numbness in his hand. Luo Chenhui smiled and said, "Ichigo, how are you feeling?" Ichigo shouted loudly, "Why are you just watching?" Luokan shook his head. After all, he also wanted to learn Ichigo's solution, and now he was just wielding a Zanpakuto. So he planned to stay out of Ichigo's battle on the premise that Ichigo's life would not be threatened. The lower limit is that Ichigo will force you to come up with a solution, and he might steal his own skills. But often things backfire. The enemy sees since he seems to be the strongest person in the team, the opportunity starts with himself first, and Luo Chen is also very speechless about this situation. However, D's solution was actually learned from the soul-chopping saber. Luo Chen looked at the 9 tails in his hand, thinking about D's solution all the time. Koga Kazuo didn't think about what Luokan was thinking, but he just thought that it would be better to solve the difficult problem as soon as possible. The 2 attacks just now were only tentative. Looks like you're an expert. That hairy boy can solve it in a while. Koga made a judgment, and Luo Chen smiled bitterly in his heart, but he still held the Zanpakuto, and the 9 tails also took on a fighting stance. XXX. But at this time, Ichigo suddenly rushed forward and said, "Luokan, Kaiwu is one of my good friends. Let me understand this matter and let me protect you." Daruku couldn't take it anymore. Her spider-like shape twisted and shouted, "Everyone is fine. I can't wait to go down and show you my beautiful figure. Let's fight." Saying that, Daruku raised his body high, and the ends of his body were separated from the main body, but they were controlled by the main body and suspended in the air. Katakana middle dot katakana middle dot katakana middle dot seeking flowers katakana middle dot 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 katakana middle dot. Accept the call. Dozens of spheres began to split, to the point of dazzling. At least nearly 100 attacks were directed at Ichigo and Luokan every second. Drink. Ichigo asked Luokan to protect Keigo, and he moved in the direction of Daruku, and he blocked most of the attacks. 0. Ichigo, I didn't expect that your progress is really not small. Let me see if you can win. Luo Chen watched with interest. But Ichigo's high spirits didn't last long. Lilin looked worriedly at Ichigo who was fighting, while Luokan was very relaxed. He, you can't escape my palm. Daruku first made a trick to invite you into the urn, and led Ichigo into the small room. Ichigo was caught in a trap without knowing it. Eat my trick. Stop me. Daruku's body is as light as riding the wind, jumping on the roof, and releasing a web-like structure all over his body. This is completely spider predation. 100 million. Chapter 1072. Ichigo didn't have time to withdraw, but was grabbed by Daruku and tied up, and the Zanpakuto in his hand fell to the ground. Luo Chen's brows suddenly wrinkled at this moment. He knew that Ichigo's limit was reached. If there was no strong help, the current situation would be very critical. Ha ha ha, you just die for me here. Daruku picked up the Zanpakuto with tentacle-like hands, and stabbed the 1360 guard with the tip of the blade. If this attack worked, he would have to wait for the burial. But Luokan wouldn't keep watching. He stepped up in a flash. Daruku and Koga were both shocked, and the alarm for Luokan suddenly sounded in their hearts. In this stunned effort, Luo Chen clenched the blade with his 2 fingers and reversed the Zanpakuto in Daruku's hand. Ichigo. Then there were several sounds of breaking the air, and Daruku and the body wrapped around Ichigo broke off, turning into tiny particles scattered on the ground. Koga and Daruku reacted instantly and jumped away from a distance of several meters. They didn't know what Luokan would do next. Only by keeping a proper distance would they have time to react. It's still too late. Luo Chen sighed and put Ichigo on the ground with a puff. Ninetails also showed unusual hostility. That's right, Ichigo is no longer the original Ichigo. I saw Ichigo's face with a mask that only had virtual, but covering half of Ichigo's face. His eyes and even his demeanor produced an evil feeling. Hey, Luokan, won't you be lighter? Ichigo, this kid is really worrying. And you won't shoot earlier. Ichigo complained. It's not enough. Since you let me out, you must know that Ichigo's strength is 1,000 miles behind me. I'll accompany you to have a good time. This is not the first time that Luokan has seen this kind of blindness in Ichigo. It happened once when Ichigo was fighting against Kuchiki Byakuya. Luokan is quite interested in this, so I don't plan to stop it now. Go to hell. Before Daruku could react, the Phantom Ichigo had already arrived in front of her, and inserted the Zanpakuto into her body. With a wave, Daruku disappeared with the wind. It's really more than one level stronger. Luokan nodded and said. Koga was obviously taken aback, and he thought to himself, what kind of card I was playing, that kid who can't see through now, and then there was an inexplicable explosion. But just when Ichigo was about to pursue the victory, the struggle in his body appeared. It was the battle between the original Ichigo and the current Ichigo for the control of the body and the dominance of consciousness. Ichigo's left and right hands wanted to take off the mask and stop it, respectively, and then waved the Zanpakuto out of thin air for a while, greeting each other constantly. No one wanted the other. Ichigo, you brat. If I hadn't made a move just now, if that fellow was slow, you would have been dead. Ichigo, who seemed to be in a virtual state, shouted. Luokan pouted and said, it seems necessary to let you know who is your eldest brother. Even if you are virtual, you are still a brother. I saw Luo-chen took a step forward, reached out and fanned out the mask on Ichigo's face a few meters away, disappearing. It's really awkward. Ellipsis 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 dot. Chapter 1073. What? Ichigo was in pain, as if a piece of dough was torn off his face. He fell backwards, but stood on his heels with the soul-chopping saber. Hey. Luokan, I don't say hello at all, although I am very grateful to you, but very it hurts. Who told you to fight with that guy to lose your head? Now is the time of the enemy. Why is there no tension, and I don't want to save it? Luo-chen reminded Ichigo to adjust the loading back. Ichigo nodded, and the two faced Koga and Daruku, set up Zanpakuto, and regrouped. Koga saw this and said, although I don't know why the two of you are so mysterious, it's not worth mentioning in front of Daruku. You know, I have absorbed the souls of a lot of living people, and my current strength is not the same as before. It can be said that it is improving rapidly. That friend of yours has also become my appetite, ha ha ha. Ichigo glared at him. Although he was eager to help Keigo now, he still had to give priority to repelling Koga, otherwise it would always be a big trouble. 1. Ichigo, run away. Kaiwu opened his eyes in the dimness, still thinking about the safety of Ichigo. He's dying. Since he can see you, it proves that his soul is running out. Luokan laughed. Oh, you are very confident, but Ichigo, don't worry, I can guarantee that Kaiwu's life is not in danger. Koga expressed doubts. Impossible. But you have no chance to save him, so let's accompany him on the road. On the other hand, after separating from Ichigo, Rukia and Inoue Orihime met. Where's Ichigo? Inoue Orihime asked eagerly. He went to look for the soul hunter, and he just separated from us. Rukia replied. It is still far from the time to relax, and several people can't get in touch. If you encounter the enemy alone, it will be very dangerous. At this time, it is better to act in small groups. Just now Ichigo's Reiatsu suddenly disappeared, and we are looking for him, the Tibetan said. Jinta comforted. However, he has the store manager's machine, so it shouldn't be a problem. Besides, Mr. Luokan is also there. If they can meet together, they can solve any enemy. Everyone breathed a sigh of relief in their hearts, hoping that things would develop as expected. By the way, what about Renji? Rukia asked. You go to Ichigo, I'll go to Renji. Before they finished speaking, Rukia and the Tibetans immediately reacted. throwing Inoue and the two children aside, and in the next instant, two attacks came, leaving traces where everyone was standing. It's the enemy. Everyone immediately raised their vigilance and looked towards the source of the attack. There was a woman standing on the roof. She was the soul hunter Yushi, wearing a robe, holding a sword and a folding fan. Let's go. Jinta went to find Renji. Xiaoyu went to Chado. We are here. Rukia responded quickly, and couldn't be held back here. Both sides were caught in a fight, but something unexpected happened on Ichigo's side. Before the attack, Koga obviously noticed something strange, and his vigilance increased again. That was because there was a person with a base station dozens of meters behind him. His breath was unobstructed, and he was looking straight at him, as if looking at him. Like the prey, Koga was very upset. Ellipsis 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 dot. Chapter 1074. Who is it? Koga jumped to the side, unable to be caught in the middle. Daruku also sent Koga to withdraw to the side. The mysterious visitor made no secret of it. Knowing that he was discovered, he slowly walked out of the shadows. Have you been discovered? Are you the soul hunter? He jumped abruptly and fell to Ichigo's side, Adjutant Kira Izuru of the 3rd Division of Gotei 13th Division. Luokan pretended to ask, Jiliang, why are you here? It's not because of the order of the captain of the 10th team. 5 adjutants, including me, were sent to carry out the task of soul hunters. I just didn't expect you to be so unbearable. Is it because the soul hunters are too strong, or what is the reason? Luokan said, you don't need to intervene this time. The two of us have just finished warming up and are about to get serious with him. Ji Liang looked at Ichigo and said, there are a lot of wounds all over the body. Is this also called a warm-up? You all step back. This time I will be his opponent. Daruku laughed wickedly. You guys have a scar. You can't have too many handsome guys. Ichigo, just rest on the side. I'll go with Ji Liang. Luokan received a prompt from the system just now. Although the idea of using flying insects to reverse track their base camp was shelved, it didn't mean that the idea would not work. There are better materials in front of us. As long as the system can find a convergence point for the source of the spiritual power used by these soul hunters, it will basically be able to confirm their location. Luokan, I can still fight. Look at what you look like, and you still need Kaiwu. You just need to protect him. Just let me go back to him for a while. Holding the Zanpakuto, Luokan and Kira both went into battle. But Kira didn't underestimate the enemy, and immediately began to understand the Zanpakuto. A curved structure appeared in front of the long sword. Although the shape was very strange, its power was indeed several times higher than before. Luokan could only be greedy, looking at the seat in his hand, still unable to solve it, shook his head, but he believed that one day he would be able to succeed, and now he has reached a bottleneck. Saying it was too late, it was too soon. Kira and Daruku fought together, and Luokan of course stood in a ball with Koga, but Luokan was a drunkard, not drinking. Fighting with Koga is not the goal. Let the system search for the location of the enemy's lair based on Koga's breath. But Koga is really not to be underestimated. After living in the world for so many years, the training of physical skills is beyond the reach of ordinary people. This time, Luokan learned the lesson of the last time, and fought with Koga unhurriedly, trying to give the system enough time to crack it. Diaresis master, there is something I don't know if I should say it or not. Say. The reverse tracking of the soul hunter is not easy. After all, he is wise, and I need time. Luokan shrugged his shoulders, expressing helplessness, but now, good kings, Kaiwu is still at stake. If he really can't hold on by then, Luokan doesn't mind using a life-saving pill. Drink. The battle here is an understatement in Luokan's view, but in Koga's view it is evenly matched, with sweat dripping from his cheeks. On the other side, there was a one-sided picture. Kira was suppressed. Daruku laughed. What adjutant, just this one. Ellipsis 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 dot. Chapter 1075. Although Kira used Shikaku, he was always pressed and beaten by Daruku. Daruku's body formed two gun-mounted parts at the end, and he launched his body. The steel-like shells fired at the same speed as a submachine gun, dealing a large-scale fatal blow to Kira. It depends on being hit once, not to mention a penetrating injury, but also a few broken bones, lying on the ground, unable to get up again. Zanpakuto and Cannonball made contact time and time again, and Kira avoided or resisted each time with clever steps, but there was no way to defeat it like this. Looking at Ji Liang's situation, Luo Chen couldn't help but worry about him. How could a dignified lieutenant, a god of death who knows how to solve the problem, couldn't do it with ease? It was a shock. Ji Liang, why have you degenerated? Kira didn't respond, but his expressionless expression indicated that he was obviously well informed, and there might be a big reversal. Sure enough, it was recorded that when Daruku thought he was winning, an accident happened. What's going on? Why does my body feel heavier and heavier? What's going on? Daruku was surprised and nervous that he couldn't control his body properly. He looked at Ji Liang opposite and said, "What did you do?" "It's nothing, this is the ability of my Zanpakuto, which can increase the weight of the thing that is cut, and what you just fired at me has become a burden to you." Luokan smiled. Sure enough, how could someone who can have a position in the soul's realm not have two brushes? You bastard. Daruku's body parts were pulled back by the absorbed body parts, which made it very inconvenient to move. Of course, Kira didn't miss this opportunity, and he planned to pursue the victory. Hey, where are you looking? Koga's roar finally brought back Luokan's thoughts. In between, Koga became angry and grabbed a piece of steel and rushed up. XXX. However, Luo Chen is not scared. Although it is beyond ordinary people's imagination to be able to play with steel bars freely, Xiao Chen is not someone who has not seen big scenes. Ninetales. Ninetales received the order and shot several fireballs at the steel bar. In an instant, the shape of the steel bar had changed, and the iron juice flowed down. When Koga saw this, he hurriedly left. His body was not strong enough to withstand the high temperature of thousands of degrees, but Luo Chen took aim at the opportunity. When Koga retreated abruptly, in a blink of an eye, before Koga had time to react, he used the hilt to hit Koga's lower abdomen, and Koga flew out more than 10 meters upside down. To say that he is still a soul hunter, he has so many souls in one hand, which is really powerful. If ordinary people use this trick and lie in the hospital for a week, it will be fine. Koga is only slightly injured. Daruku. Koga was deflated. Although he was only slightly injured, he really knew that the person in front of him was not easy to mess with. Get out. Daruku felt disdain in his heart, but he had to agree with Koga's suggestion. After all, both of them were hanged by the enemy now, and they didn't retreat now, and there was no one to collect the corpses. HMPH, I can't possibly lose to you. Before the next meeting, wash your neck and wait. Luokan and Kira looked at each other and retreated to Ichigo and Kato. Koga put Daruku away and slowly retreated into the shadows. Stop, you can't leave yet. I'm going to defeat you. Ichigo rushed forward to catch up, but Koga had long since disappeared. Ellipsis 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 dot. Chapter 1076. Ichigo was very regretful and sighed, damn. Luokan reminded, it's not time for a decisive battle, aren't you worried about Kaiwu's life? Ichigo woke up like a dream, he was almost blinded by anger and unwillingness just now, the other self who was in a virtual state may have to come out again. He adjusted his mentality and said, I see, now hurry up and bring Kaiwu to Urahara. Go to the store without delay. Just when Luo Chen and others were about to set off, Luo Chen received the system's message. Although I didn't follow the clues to find the exact location of the base camp, but now the locations of all soul hunters are known. Well done. Luo Chen smiled slightly. Jirana, the medical care will be handed over to you. After speaking, Luo Chen took out a few pills from his arms and said to Ichigo, these pills can be taken by Kaiwu. I guess Renji is also very dangerous. Give him one if you meet him. What is this? Does it work so well? Ichigo took it and left without hesitation with Kago. Then where are you going next, Tilda? The system replied. About 500 meters from this place, there is a violent reaction. It is estimated that, during the battle. Okay, let's go there. Is it Inoue, Rukia or Chato? Luo Chen ran towards the target location with questions. On this side, Rukia and Inoue were facing the soul hunter. Why are you in such a hurry? You haven't aimed at it yet. Next time, I'll put them through a hole. Like Daruku, the two weapons in her hands are also intelligent things, and their power cannot be underestimated. Come on. Several sword shadows attacked Rukia, and Rukia rolled back while fighting back, Kingwozhuan. But they were all dodged by the opponent one by one, and the opponent intensified, and the more dense rain of swords attacked Rukia. 3 days to form a shield. I refuse. Inoue Orihime immediately opened her shield and blocked all the incoming swords. Let me help. But Yuki didn't panic at all, because although Rukia and Inoue Orihime on the opposite side had certain strengths, they were not her opponents, let alone Tibetans. Just as the two sides were fighting back and forth, Yushi gradually gained the upper hand. She kept using swords and fans with her left and right hands, playing the other side between her palms. Katakana middle dot katakana middle dot katakana middle dot seeking flowers katakana middle dot 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 katakana middle dot. Although Rukia's firepower is good, it takes a lot of time, and Inoue's defenses are beginning to show fatigue. The Tibetans can only play soy sauce on the side. This meaningless battle, it's time to end. At the moment when Yushi started, she sensed that a powerful Reiatsu was approaching. 0. What is that? Don't care, let's deal with these guys first and then take a long-term view. Yushi threw out both the fan and the sword, and they cut through the sky like darts, charging towards the three of them. If you get hit, the consequences are unimaginable. But that's too late. Nine Tails, burn it for me. Kyubi received the order, and several fireballs attacked Yuxi's weapon, and the two weapons immediately confessed, "No, I'm definitely not beautiful when touched by that fireball, no, no." Yushi had no choice but to withdraw her weapon. She looked at Luokan vigilantly. How could she have such a powerful spiritual pressure? 100 million. Chapter 1077. I didn't expect it to be one wave after another. Don't you even have a vacation? Luo Chen was very helpless. After all, he was the protagonist group here, and anything could be thrown at him. It was impossible to get rid of Luokan. The Tibetans were overjoyed. Only Orihime and Rukia's fighting power was not enough to deal with Yushi, but if Luokan could come, he should be able to retreat. Of course, he underestimated Luosan 60 Chen's strength. However, before everyone was happy for a long time, another figure appeared. Ha ha ha, why are you being held back in this place? It seems that you are not strong enough. His slightly harsh sarcasm made the game's brows furrowed. The person who came was not Gao Chen's friend, but Ma Chao, who is also a member of Yushi's group. What? Why are you here? But just watch it from the sidelines, then I will use all my strength. Yushi said to him disdainfully, obviously very dissatisfied with the irony of herself. But when Ma Chao heard Yushi's answer, not only did he not intend to stand by, but he got closer to the center of the battle, obviously wanting to intervene. The two surrounded Luokan and the others with a gesture of King's Landing. It seemed that even if Luokan's foreign aid was unexpected, they thought it was just a matter of spending more time in this situation. Tibetan, I'll make a breakthrough in a while. You take the two of them away, and leave this place to me. Luo Chen said without hesitation. In the eyes of others, Luokan is willing to sacrifice as a backing, but in fact Luokan is to exert all his strength. Orihime objected, how can this be done? We can't do it without you running for your life or something. Rukia and the Tibetans also expressed their opposition. Although we have been injured, we have no fighting strength from time to time. You must be very difficult to face the two of them. Don't be brave. Luokan shook his head. It's okay to leave it to me here. You all go back to the Urahara store first. Ichigo, maybe Renji is there too. they're all injured, I'll go and make peace with you when I find Shadow. This. Yushi was a little displeased, but she didn't expect that Luokan had already made a plan to defeat them. None of you want to escape. Huh. She swung her sword and fan, and the shadow of the sword and the pressure of the wind hit Luo Chen, but in the next instant, Ma Chao blocked the attack. Hey hey hey, I am excited to absorb the soul of a living person for the first time today. Don't disappoint, or even you will be killed. Ma Chao had obviously fallen into a state of a little madness. It appears to be overdone. Yushi was furious. You brat, it's the first time you dare to point fingers at me. Luokan interrupted their speech. If you can get it together, don't divide the order, so that both of us can save effort. Ma Chao jumped down from the roof and called out his doll. It was a strange creature with a fox face in the shape of a flower. It didn't look like a ferocious character, but a cute family pet. Ha ha ha, very good, have the guts. Ma Chao shouted, but it's enough for me to deal with you alone. Luokan smiled slightly and said, no, you are not enough, and I am not alone. So I am not too much for the two of you. Are you talking about the three trash? Ma Chao pointed at the three Tibetans with disdain. Ellipsis 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 dot. Chapter 1078. Luo Chen shook his head. 9 tails, show him some color. Wow. Juwei jumped up from Luokan's back, showed his body, and spit out several fireballs at Ma Chao. Ma Chao was shocked and immediately dodged. The fiery fireball burned the surroundings of Ma Chao hot, and the air was distorted. Yushi frowned, thinking about how to crack it. Did you see it? This is my strength. Go back quickly, I'll follow in a while. Luo Chen and Juwei restrained the two of them. I won't let you go this time. You have to be careful. Rukia, or Ahime, and the Tibetans knew that they were already a burden, and now physical combat is the greatest help to Luokan 22, so they no longer demanded it. Where are you running? Ma Chao gave an order, and his doll flew out immediately, approaching the three of them quickly. 9 tails, stop him. The speed of the 9 tails is also not limited. It has 4 legs and wings, and it blocks in front of the 3 people in an instant. Its mouth is wide open, and several fireballs have been bred, ready to go. Damn it, come back soon. Ma Chao was also anxious. His only remaining rationality told him that he should not be reckless at this time. Don't be distracted. Yushi saw that Luokan didn't take her seriously at all. She was instantly angry, and immediately jumped into the battle, holding a sword and attacking melee'ly, but Luokan wouldn't take her so lightly. 9 tails. Luo Chen shouted the name of Zanpakuto. The swords struck each other, making a crisp sound. Yushi was weak, and was pushed back, almost fell, so embarrassed. Right at this moment, the 3 of them wanted to disappear from everyone's sight, and only Luo Chen, Juwei, Yushi and Ma Chao were left at the scene. Very good, very good. The flesh on the lips flew away. It's all you. Just use your soul to apologize to me. Ma Chao gritted his teeth, angered, and went straight to Tianlinggai. Yushi and he unexpectedly reached a tacit agreement, surrounded Luo Chen and 9 tails in the center, and planned to swarm them. Go. The next time the moonlight shines on the earth again, the 2 sides are dispatched together. Luokan's Zanpakuto came into contact with Yuki's weapon again, but this time Luokan didn't try it and didn't keep his hand, because, you guys are not worth my waste of time. Luokan has already felt that this time, their separate actions are not quite right. Maybe the enemy is aiming at this point and intends to destroy them one by one, so that each group of people is in danger. But they overlooked Luokan's strength. This time, it was a very thrilling adventure. If Renji, Ichigo, or Ahime, and Rukia didn't have Luokan's help, they would have been in a hard fight now. However, if the 2 of them were forced back now, only the Chadu group would be left. If Soul Realm sent helpers, Luo Chen hoped that they would come soon. What is this, stinky dog? Damn it, don't be too arrogant, or my doll is more powerful. Although he said so, Ma Chao was forced to retreat step by step, and it was difficult to grasp a flaw, but 9 tails immediately saved him from danger. Damn, but don't be too complacent. I'm taking over your body. Ma Chao became angry and launched a final attack, trying to use the doll to turn the 9 tails into a puppet. Ellipsis 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 dot. Chapter 1079. Buzz. The sound of a knife sounded, and Ma Chao was taken aback. His doll had already stopped in midair, without even touching a single cold hair of 9 tails. What's going on? Who are you? Ma Chao was very shocked. He didn't expect that someone would be able to block his attack. The other party didn't speak, so Ma Chao took back his doll. The doll had been injured, and now there was no way to release it, and more souls had to be absorbed to repair it. Now Ma Chao was completely at a disadvantage, but he did not forget to say harshly, "So, are you a god of death? Damn it, you are a god of death, and even a god of death dares to disturb me." Luokan turned his head to look, and saw that the person who came was indeed dressed as a death tyrant, with a horizontal stripe on the middle part of his face, Deputy Captain of the 9th Division of the 13th Division of the God Tae, Hisa Shubei. A character at the level of Vice Captain. Damn it, now that my combat power is damaged, I'll let you all go and fight another day tilde. Ma Chao knew that if he went up like this, he could only give him away, so he decided to retreat. But, do you think I'll just let you slip away for nothing? Hisa wouldn't let his opponent go easily. I'm still fighting bloody here. I won't allow you to run away in advance, you brat. Yushi was mentally broken by Ma Chao. He was the one who wanted to fight, and he was the first one who wanted to escape. That's right, don't even think about running away. Take care of an enemy here. In the future, it will be a little easier, and be punished obediently. Luokan and Hisa don't stand with their backs facing each other, and Kyubi returned to Luokan's shoulders. Although they are not very familiar with each other, they are at least the gods of death. They are considered a team of soul hunters, and the two sides also know each other's purpose and identity. In this way, the record will show a repressive change. Ma Chao scolded, Luo Chen pouted, and chose to ignore this sentence. It seems that this machine is really undervalued, just to take advantage of this opportunity to vent and let these little brats know how powerful they are. Drink. Without talking nonsense, Hisa first attacked Ma Chao, who had no means of attack. If this attack worked, then the list of soul hunters would be reduced by one person. But at this moment, a figure fell from the sky again. It was like the relaxation of history again, but what was obviously different was the hostility between the two sides. Zanpakuto. XXX. The other party also had a Zanpakuto, and he stopped Hisa's Zanpakuto. He turned around, knocked Ma Chao unconscious and carried it on his shoulders, leaving only a back figure, but Hisa also clearly saw the other party's true identity. Diaresis Ichinos, why are you? But the other party didn't say a word. Yushi sighed. If she continued to entangle at this time, she would only make herself shriveled, so she also chose to retreat temporarily. Seeing that the enemy had already retreated, Luokan said hello to Hisa. The main force is basically at the Urahara store now. You can go there. I still have things to do, so don't let it go. He didn't wait for Hisa to respond, and he had already left with the 9 tails, because the system found another violent reaction from the soul hunter, which seemed to be more troublesome than the previous 3. Ellipsis 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 dot. Chapter 1080. It seems that they were almost there. Really, I've been busy this night for nothing. I haven't defeated a soul hunter, and they are too cunning. I won't let that guy go this time. Although Jue burned a lot of flying insects, he was in a good mood, but Luokan became more and more unhappy. Then you can do it. This breath is really Chadu, but their opponent is Zedu. He does look like a shrewd old man. Although he doesn't seem to be a threat, it should not be underestimated. Dangerous. The two sides were confronting each other, and at this time, they didn't dare to take it lightly. The old man knew that Chadu's right arm was very powerful. Although he wouldn't be particularly vigilant, it would be bad if he was hit. And Chadu and the others were very unpredictable to the old man opposite. Cold sweat slowly seeped out from Chadu, Xiaoyu and Ziba, and the cold wind made them shiver. The hazy moonlight and pale moonlight cast a misty color on the surroundings, and the atmosphere was very depressing. Swish. Someone came from behind. The old man's accomplice. Chadu thought. He turned his head slowly, while guarding against Zeju's sudden attack, in order to confirm the situation behind him. Ah, it's Brother Luokan, Xiaoyu exclaimed in a relaxed voice. She thought that the arrival of Luokan would make her side more confident, and the threat of the old man was nothing. Ziba nodded, and the burden on her body was instantly lighter. After all, Luo Chen is such a reassuring person. After all, his strength is there. Wow! Zhu jumped off Luokan's shoulder and ran to Xiaoyu's feet. Xiaoyu also stroked Zhu's soft hair, reducing the pressure a lot. Chadu, are you alright? Luokan asked. It's okay, why are you the only one? Did you find anything? Chadu was also very anxious. Ichigo and the others have returned to the Urahara store to gather. I'm here to find you. Soul hunters are very troublesome, let alone that old fox. Luo Chen's eyes narrowed slightly, looking at the old man seriously. Luokan walked to the front and said, hurry up and knock the opponent away, go back and regroup. The helpers from the Soul Society have arrived, and the next time is to wipe out the soul hunters. The corners of Zeju's mouth rose slightly. He knew that the young man opposite was even more difficult to deal with, but his appearance was still steady. This is the old fried dough stick. Oh, a helper from the Soul Society. Are you talking about me? Fallen dust. A clear goddess came from the sky and came to Luokan in an instant. Luokan had subconsciously blocked the Zanpakudo in front of Zhang's chest. As for why he didn't fight back, it was because the person in front of him was not someone else, but his own person from the Soul Society, Matsumoto Ranju. What? Don't know me anymore. And Chadu, how are you? What are you doing here? Don't you get tired of standing? Matsumoto Ranju asked. Aren't we going to hunt down some soul hunters now? Where are Rukia and the others? Matsumoto Ranku must have really hadn't realized that he had entered the battlefield where the swords were drawn. The soul hunter is right behind you. Luo Chen really didn't know what tone to use to remind her that there should be a limit to her nerves. Ah, is that so? Matsumoto Ranku noticed Sawadu behind, and was surprised. Ellipsis 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 dot. Chapter 1081. You mean that the old man who looks harmless to humans and animals is a vicious soul hunter? That's impossible, right, Zhang Sense? That's right, it's absolutely true. Luo Chen didn't know how to remind her anymore, whether it was the system's reaction or the attitude of the three of Chadu who were facing a formidable enemy. They could ask for her life. Luokan slandered in his heart, can't you read the air? Miss. Humph. It seems that my old man is already an insignificant marginal person who is despised by you. It's a pity, your underestimation will kill you, Miss Death from the Soul Realm. Zedu looks kind-hearted, and is indeed not a simple role. Just because he feels that he appears in front of Luokan and others with his incompetent body, he knows that he has something to rely on. Don't give a shit, I just need to vent now. Luo Chen is getting more and more intolerable to soul hunters. Oh, young people, it's common to get angry, but the old man is not a casual person. I wonder if the lady over there doesn't like you, or do you have special needs of your own? Zedu seemed to be half joking. Shahao did not hide his contempt for Luo Chen. Matsumoto Ranku looked at Zedu and said, you old man, you really look like a soul hunter. No one can do such rude words and deeds except for soul hunters. The object I like is Yin, not Luokan. But Yin is now the enemy of the Soul Society, and he is no longer an excellent image in my heart. If Luokan doesn't mind. Seeing Ranju Matsumoto, who was trying to make a real move, Chadu breathed a sigh of relief. The game seemed to be stable. As long as Luokan and Matsumoto's chaos played out normally, Sawadu would definitely not be an opponent. Then you guys want to go to war? Zedu smiled slightly, looking like he was winning, but in Luo Chen's eyes, all of this was just clever. Let me see what your doll is. Luo Chen shouted, and the nine tails also jumped to the ground, posing an attacking stance. Zedu didn't speak, but the seat under him suddenly began to change. Through the moonlight, one could see that the seat under Zedu was not an ordinary bench or a wheelchair at all, but something that did not exist in this world. What's that? Matsumoto Renku drew out his Zanpakudo and was on guard for Sawadu's attack, but in the next instant, everyone looked at each other like a group of dragons without a head. Katakana middle dot katakana middle dot katakana middle dot seeking flowers katakana middle dot 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 katakana middle dot. Because Zedo has disappeared. As the ground beneath everyone's feet surged, a strange touch came from under their feet, and then Zedu disappeared from sight when they were distracted. Although it is reasonable to say that a person cannot disappear out of thin air, but the fact is that there is no existence of Sawadu in this world, this time and space. What's going on? I can't feel his spiritual pressure anymore. Matsumoto Ranju shouted. She was very confident in her own strength, and she panicked for a moment when she encountered such a situation she had never seen before. Luo Chen snorted softly, "Be smart. System, give me his position." Okay. The system answered decisively. Wouldn't it be very embarrassing to have nothing to gain after so many battles with soul hunters? Although the system did not accurately find the soul hunter's lair, it knew the aura of each soul hunter very well, and was able to fully grasp the location of all soul hunters. Of course, the place where the largest number of people gathered was their base camp. 100 million. Chapter 1082. It's just that they are also moving around now, so they can't determine a specific location. Tonight, let's give it up for the time being. After everyone's injuries are healed, plus the assistance of the Soul Society, then the siege will be more effective with half the effort. Host, the location has been verified. But it's not in this world, but in another space. Oh, at last there is such a powerful doll, let Sanlu-san meet him. Luo Chen had a fun idea in his heart, but let's see how he moves. It's coming. Ziba issued a notice just before the arrival of the enemy, and everyone received the news. Although they didn't know how Ziba did it, they could only believe him at this time. Roar! A huge figure emerged from the ground, and then immediately jumped into the ground. The whole process was very fast, and everyone only saw the shape of the attacker. Whale, shark. No, that thing is really not good to be named after an existing species. It seems to be something in fantasy or a demon, not a good kind. But fortunately, everyone escaped the first attack. The attack of the fish was also strange. It didn't cause any damage to the land, but it felt the strong suction in its mouth. If it got close, don't try to break free. However, Ziba is not the only one who can grasp the direction of Zeju's attack. Luo Chen knows a lot more than Ziba. Kyue, wait for him to come out next time, give him a shot. Wow! Ninetails are ready to go. It is very excited, very interested in this moving prey in front of it, and has a different atmosphere from the previous dolls of soul hunting. Coming. Following Luoken's order, Ninetails launched an attack on Zeju's doll, which cannot be explained by coincidence. Several fireballs were fired at the same time, and shot out from the mouth of the Ninetails, and the body of the doll in the middle of Zedu was not biased. The huge body suffered from pain and fell to the ground. Zawadu emerged from the doll angrily. It turned out that Zawadu didn't disappear, but was always there. It's all in the doll's body, no wonder the Reiatsu disappeared. Paula, are you alright? Zedu said angrily. Only then did everyone see the specific appearance of the big fish. The whole big fish was completely composed of stones, and its appearance was extremely ferocious, while Zedu was sitting on the big fish, wrapped in scales. No problem, this attack is indeed powerful, but there will be no next time. The fish named Paula responded. Okay, come on, this time you are lucky, but next time you won't be so lucky. Zedu ordered Paula to attack, give me devour them. Sure enough, Paula's mouth was wide open enough to fit several elephants. For a human being, that kind of pressure is as powerless as a tsunami and a volcanic eruption. Boom. Paula's mouth was pitch black, and it seemed to contain thousands of stars, and the entire space was affected by it, making it tremble and roar. Standing in front of it is absolutely like the end of the world. Haha, die. Paula's mouth has a different dimension in it. Luokan smiled slightly, knowing that the opportunity was coming. 9 tails, come with a tailed beast jade. Big one. Ellipsis 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 dot. Chapter 1083. The tailed beast jade has always been banned by Fallen due to its great power. If it were to be used, it would be used on a small scale with 1/10 or 1/100th of its power. However, the situation is different this time. Since the big fish has a different dimension in its mouth, it's easy to handle. Isn't the tailed beast jade too powerful? In different dimensions, no matter how powerful it is, easy to use as king. Jue, use the tailed beast jade. The big one. Luo Chen pointed to Jue. 9 tails are instantly full of energy, because it always has to suppress its own strength when fighting, otherwise it will be taught a lesson by Luo Chen, but 22 is too cool today. Wow! The condensed ground in the mouth is no longer the ordinary fireball, but the tailed beast jade. Of course, I don't even know where this tailed beast jade should be launched. Go! The tailed beast jade is about the size of a person, which is indeed not too small, but for Paula, it can only be stuffed between her teeth. Of course, this is in terms of volume. If it is destructive, I don't know if Paula can withstand it. It's useless, useless, useless. Paula's alien dimension can swallow everything. Although your energy ball looks extraordinary, it will also be consumed. Zedu laughed, he had never seen such an opponent before. Luokan doesn't have the same knowledge as him. Old guy, do you think my energy is for your body? I know that your doll can absorb matter and convert it into its own strength, but there must be a limit, as long as it exceeds your upper limit. Quote. Luokan put his hand under his neck and made a threatening gesture. Zedu turned his head in disdain, neither of them agreed. Give it to me. Zedu ate the whole tailed beast jade in one bite, and was satisfied and patted his belly sarcastically, although the two voices were completely out of reach. Jue urgently ducked to the side, lying on Luokan's shoulders ready to watch the play, and yawned, which shows that it has full confidence. This person is enough to take this move. Haha, how's it going? What's not just a bite? Young man, don't be too confident, the salt I've eaten. What's going on? When Zedu was halfway through speaking, his expression suddenly changed, because Paula really had some trouble. What's going on? Paula suddenly began to twitch violently, like a fish landing on the shore, throwing Zedu off. Boom! A muffled sound came from Paula's abdomen, and then Paula opened her mouth to the sky, and a thick beam of light shot towards the sky, piercing the night sky, as bright as the sun, and the stars and moons were all eclipsed. After a long time, the overflow of energy finally stopped, but Paula was already severely injured, and she became like a person who has been walking in the desert for several days without getting a drop of water. He craved everything, but even the strength he obtained 363 are gone. Paula, what's the matter with you? Luokan shook his head, looked at the poor old man in front of him, and said, You've already lost, it can't fight anymore. Go ahead and capture it. If I hadn't reacted quickly, I would have been shattered by now. Fortunately, I noticed something was wrong the moment before it exploded, and expelled the energy urgently. The space has now begun to collapse. Hearing these words, Zedu did not surrender. You wait for me, I will take revenge. Let's run away. Ellipsis 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 dot. XXX. Chapter 1084. Paula used the last bit of strength to wrap Zedu and sneak into other spaces, and began to try to escape. Hee, as long as Paula devours the soul again, it's not difficult to get back to the top. Let's wait and see. Matsumoto Ranju shouted. No, can we just let that guy escape and devour more people? I can't allow it, there must be a way to force him out. Ziba said. I just attached a riddle pattern on Paula's body. The different space is just a small broken space, and it is not as stable as the human world and the soul world. As long as you give an unstable energy position, the skills will repel them. Matsumoto Ranju looked at Luokan and Chadu and said, "The two of us will force him out, but that will probably use up all my strength, so it's up to you." Chadu nodded, "Leave it to us." After speaking, Chadu's right arm began to glow, a flash of spiritual pressure flashed, and the entire right arm was covered with a weapon like a glove, but it was more like an extension of the glove. "Let's start." Matsumoto Ranju and Ziba crossed their hands. Matsumoto Ranju sent all the energy to Ziba, and Ziba attached all this energy to the mystery pattern just now. On the other side, Zedu, who fled in embarrassment, was urging Paula to return to the base camp quickly, but he soon noticed something abnormal. "What's going on here? The other dimension is getting more and more unstable. It's really bad luck. Paula, think of a way." Paula was also very puzzled, and suddenly found that there was an unfamiliar energy fluctuation in her tail. She wanted to eliminate it, but it was too late. A large amount of energy poured in, and the different dimension fell apart. "It's too late, we're going to get out," Paula shouted in a panic. "It's only 30 meters away, and they will most likely catch up." Buzz. The two were repelled by the different dimension. The distance from the coordinates where they originally entered the different dimension was not very far, but it was not close. Zedu could only pray that Luo Chen and the others could not find their place of appearance, and then immediately sneaked back into the different dimension when he took the opportunity. However, Zedu has no chance. Chadu, on your side. Luokan has always been in control of the location information of Zedu through the system. Of course, it is already very clear where Zedu will appear. It happens to be on the side of Chadu. Okay, look at me. Chadu knew that his strength was not enough to cause substantial harm to Zedu and Paula. After all, the camel was bigger than a horse, and he knew that. So Chadu's mission is to hold Zedu and let Luokan give Zedu the last blow. Don't want. Chadu grabbed Paula's tail with all his strength. If she was in her prime, Paula would have been able to break free immediately, but now she can't use any extra strength. Luo Chen took it easy and pulled out the Zanpakudo. Although Good Wang Zhao hasn't been able to comprehend the first solution, this blow is enough. Come to your senses, and repay the debts for the people you killed. Buzz. The sound of the sword resounded throughout the night sky, and substantial energy was condensed on the body of the sword. That was the resonance of the nine tails and Luo Chen. The surrounding space and time trembled, but no one noticed. Luokan didn't say a word. He slashed with a knife, and the blade reflected the pale moonlight and flashed a dazzling light. Ellipsis 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 dot. Chapter 1085. Meanwhile, on the other side, in the Urahara store. "Oh, isn't this Ichigo?" Urahara said in surprise. "You are the third batch of people who came back. I didn't expect this time to be unfavorable." "Mr. Urahara, could it be that Rukia and Orihime?" Ichigo asked with surprise behind Keigo's back. He didn't expect that he only left for a while, and they also encountered soul hunters. Xiaoyu came out of the back room, opened the door, and said, "Brother Ichigo, hurry up and move this person into the room for treatment, Mr. Hanataro is here." Ichigo slammed hard, and his speed was a little faster, and he hurriedly carried Kaiwu in. When he entered the room, he was also startled by the scene in front of him. Unexpectedly, everyone who had been separated for less than half an hour was already lying on the ground, all looking pale. Some were injured because of the battle, and some were also wounded in their souls. "Mr. Hanataro, Ichigo is back too," Xiaoyu shouted. It was the famous Hanataro in the Soul Society who was here to rescue him. He still knew a lot about the healing of souls, although he wasn't very good at fighting. Ichigo looked around for a week, and found that Renji was in a coma, and there was a little boy he didn't know next to him. It was estimated that he was an unrelated person who was affected like Keigo. On the other hand, Rukia and Orihime also looked like they had experienced a battle, but luckily it was just a normal skin injury, and it didn't hurt the soul. "Ah, Ichigo, hurry up and let me see if I'm injured." Hanataro walked over from Renji, and Ichigo nodded. "Ah, by the way, Luokan asked me to bring some pills, and said it was a life-saving pill, which can be cured. I already ate one for Kai Wu on the way. Ah, are the pills given by Mr. Luokan? Then there is no problem. Huataro seemed very happy, because once Luokan shot, he would definitely be guaranteed. Hanataro took the pill and said, Rukia, or Ahime, take this pill quickly, and give Renji and that little boy one, and you'll be fine. Sure enough, when everyone took the pills, their complexion began to improve, and the incompleteness of their souls began to slowly fill up. Keigo, who was the first to take the medicine, and Orihime, who was the least injured, could not see the injured at all soon after. Looks like it. It's just that Keigo is still in a deep sleep. After all, he is an ordinary person, and it takes a lot of energy to digest the pills. Renji has already woken up from the haze. Here is Renji. Rukia breathed a sigh of relief when she saw that Renji had finally woken up, and shouted. Renji scratched her head, but still didn't understand the situation. Ichigo and the others checked the situation and said, it seems that we were all saved by Luokan, but now Luokan should go to Zedu and the others. If it weren't for the assistance of Soul Society, my battle would have been true. Very hung, eh. Speaking of which, Ichigo suddenly found out that Kira's figure was gone. Kira once said that he was not the only one in the Soul Society, and now they don't know where they went. Forget it, I can't control the people in the Soul Society. Did they all have the same temperament as Renji? Ichigo whispered. At this moment, the door outside suddenly rang again, and Urahara greeted, Yo, Luokan, and Chadu, you are all back. Ellipsis. Chapter 1086. Squeak. Luo Chen brought Chadu's figure in front of everyone, and they finally gathered together again, but this time they didn't have the same relaxed expression as last time. They knew that soul hunters were very difficult to deal with, and now they can't wait to solve this problem. Event. Luokan knew that Matsumoto Ranju had left on the way, and she was about to gather with other partners to explore the soul hunter's lair. You already know where their base camp is? Luo Chen asked not long ago. Of course, I just received a message from Ayasagawa that he found him, and we are going to rush over to fight him. Are you coming? Matsumoto Ranju replied. Luokan said, you guys go first, I want these little cubs to catch up later. Goodbye then, fallen dust. Matsumoto Ranju's figure disappeared into the dark night. Now, Luokan has finally settled them down, and he also threw out a handwritten map and said, you guys are recovering from injuries at the Urahara store at night. After you have rested, go to this place to find us. No, I'm going now. Luokan, I won't let the soul hunter go. Renji stood up suddenly, but her body didn't obey. After all, it wasn't long before she recovered. Don't be brave, your strength is not enough to reach the level of the deputy team, so don't force yourself. If you want to come, at least wait until dawn. I'll go first. Luokan left behind the map, and rushed out of the Urahara store by himself. Ninetails crawled on Luokan's shoulders, feeling extremely excited for another battle to come. On a certain mountain, in a dense forest. Yo, what a coincidence, you are here too. Matsumoto Ranku greeted Hisa and Kira. The matter of soul hunters is no longer the human world's own problem, and the corpse soul world also attaches great importance to this matter. Otherwise, it would be impossible to photograph our 4 deputy team level people to assist in the battle. That's right, I don't know what the captains are thinking about this time. They discussed their thoughts, and before they knew it, they approached the cave in front of them. In front of the cave stood a figure, it was Ace River. Hey, why are you standing here dumbfounded and being discovered by the enemy? Ace River didn't look back and said, actually, it has already been discovered, and it is impossible to make a surprise attack now. Everyone, be prepared to fight fiercely. Katakana middle. Katakana middle. Seeking flowers. Katakana middle. 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 At this time, Luokan also arrived. Since the road is really not close, after a night of fighting and several hours on the road, the sun has already risen. Those little devils won't really step on the point where the sun rises, right? It's very possible, they're really bloody. Luokan shook his head and sighed. It's just that when he saw Ace River in front of him, he suddenly remembered something. System, your investigation speed is obviously slower than that of Ace River. HMPH, if it weren't for the fact that the enemy's hiding methods were really too deep this time, I wouldn't be so embarrassed. As for that kid, it's just luck, I won't lose next time, and besides, when have I ever treated me badly? You. Luokan pouted and stopped talking. The five stood in front of the cave and drew out their zanpakuto in unison. Because soul hunters are not good people, they also need to be vigilant. Walk. With the sound of Matsumoto Ranju, the five quickly rushed in and were swallowed by the darkness. 100 million. Chapter 1087. The five of them rushed into the cave in unison and quickly adapted to the darkness here. What they saw in front of them was a very ordinary scene. There was no soul hunter at all, but there was a residual aura of a soul hunter. The topography here is not very flat, but it is also regular. Going further inside, it is no longer a natural scenery, but a lot of man-made buildings. Going further inside, the routine of the cave, the 367 forks, comes. Separate action. Luokan didn't expect their cooperation to be so tacit, almost like comrades who fought side by side all year round. Is this the power of the vice-captain level of the Soul Society? Luokan also entered one of the passages. The footsteps behind him were getting farther and farther, and finally he could only hear his own footsteps. System, find out where the soul hunters here are. Luo Chen said to the system in his heart. Yes, please go to the instructed place. Luokan saw that the dots of light representing the soul hunters were gathering somewhere, and he thought in his heart, let me catch you, little bunnies, let's see what I do with you. He ran with all his strength towards the place where the soul hunters gathered, intending to ignore everything else. The principle of catching the thief first and the king was very correct. But things did not develop as Luokan expected. Not far ahead, there were densely packed flying spherical objects, like eyes. The other four people who acted separately encountered obstacles soon after. Just like what Luo Chen encountered, they were eyeball-shaped objects one after another. Gray cat. Matsumoto Ranju used the zanpakuto to cut all the eyeballs in the field of vision in half, but there were new additions one after another, and the space was always full of them. Luo Chen and Ninetails also began to attack continuously. Ninetails' fireballs always burned a large open space in it, but it would soon be filled up. Luo Chen's zanpakuto raised his sword and fell at an extremely fast speed. It must be, no empty bullets, but the supply is still flowing. What are these things? With obvious hostility, but not attacking. Although Yasugawa thought so, but did not stop attacking, but on guard, while going deep. Soon, the characteristics of these eyeballs were clearly understood by everyone. They seemed to be just paper tigers and would not attack. It was very likely that they were only used for surveillance. Although there were a large number of them, they were very good at each other. Headache. How is this going? With their doubts and vigilance, everyone began to advance to a deeper place. In the labyrinth-like road, they turned left and right, and finally led to a very huge space. Hey, why are you here too? Matsumoto Renku saw Kira, Yasugawa, Hisa, and Luokan who had already arrived. Luokan is also very helpless. He is completely disturbed by these eyeballs, and each eyeball takes away the breath of a soul hunter, which is undoubtedly true. It seems that I need to start from scratch. It's better to get rid of these annoying things first. Luo Chen thoughtfully put down the Ninetails. Ninetails chirped, not interested in this kind of thing. It wants to fight against worthy opponents, not against these meaningless opponents. Ellipsis 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 dot. Chapter 1088. Luokan noticed Juwei's emotions and sighed. He knelt down and stroked and said, "Don't be angry, these are just appetizers. I won't let any of these soul hunters go." At this moment, those eyeballs suddenly moved, not frantically accelerating their movements, but a few kept turning in circles in place, and the rest remained motionless. It wouldn't be an attack, would it? XXX. Buzz. The rays of light came straight in, completely shrouding the 5 people, but there was no means of attacking the next step, which made people puzzled. Ji Liang raised the knife and dropped it with one hand, cutting all the glowing eyeballs in half. What is this? But at the next moment 22, the other eyeballs started to glow again, and it was impossible to guard against it. If you want to disgust us, to be honest, you did it, but can you fight? Are you a coward? Luo Chen shouted. The echo resounded in the cave, and the next response was a burst of laughter. Ha 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 ha. It was a man's voice. His voice came from all directions, but it seemed to sound directly in his brain. Dear gods of death, how are you? My name is Yu Shi. As you know, I'm a soul hunter, but I won't be defeated so easily. Everyone put on a defensive posture. Now the enemy is in the dark and I am in the open, and the situation is not safe. Then Yu Shi said, my baby's name is Katharu. Its ability, you can experience it for yourself. Humph. What kind of ability? You can only fire some smoke bombs. Does this light have any attack power? Could it be that you still want to defeat us? When Yu Shi heard this, she laughed out loud. Hee hee, it seems that you have misunderstood. These things are not my dolls, they are made from Fengyi's body, they are just my tools. What? Luo Chen was also a little surprised. It seems that the lower limit of soul hunters has been broken once again. What do you know? Yu Shi suddenly became furious. What do you know about us? In order to survive, this is a last resort. In the next instant, several more eyeballs shot out light. This time, everyone did not rush to interfere, but planned to find out Yu Shi's attack method. There was silence all around. The light did not mean to stop, it was just a stalemate, and the spirit was on the verge of relaxation. That is, at this time, the doll named Katharu suddenly attacked. Huh! A giant sword stretched out from the darkness and slashed towards Luokan, very fast. Luo Chen didn't panic, he blocked the Zanpakuto in front, and with all his strength, he bounced the giant sword back. The giant sword was really huge, as long as a person and as wide as half a person, but there was no sound of falling to the ground, and it disappeared out of thin air and disappeared into the darkness. Sure enough, as they said, your strength is the most powerful here. Yu Shi's voice came again, but next time you won't be so lucky. Shish. The figures of several giant swords attacked Luokan and the others once again. Ninetails and the deputy team stepped forward to block them, and forced several swords back. Luokan smiled slightly, clearly realizing something. Ha ha ha, Yu Shi, I have completely mastered your attack method. Ellipsis 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 dot. Chapter 1089. What? It's impossible, Yu Shi exclaimed in surprise. He couldn't believe that the method he was proud of was broken in less than a few minutes from the professor. Luokan, did you know? Matsumoto Ranju's view of Luokan became more and more full of admiration. Now in his eyes Luokan is not only good-looking, but also has an image of both civil and military. Luokan nodded. Don't worry, you will listen to my instructions later. Humph, how can you feign a shot like this? I think you don't understand my attack method at all, right? Yu Shi said provocatively. He wanted to show his flaws in Luokan. After all, these gods of death are all the same in his eyes. They are extremely arrogant and like to steal the limelight. They use the soul hunters as tool people, and so on. Luokan shook his head, stretched out his hand and waved his index finger left and right. You can put those clever ones away, and I'll explain it myself. When you make one shot tilde. Do you think I dare not shoot? Are you delaying time? But unfortunately, my glasses can see all your movements, and my Catherine has enough strength. Again here comes a group of people who will die. Yu Shi said with a smile. Even if he couldn't see it, Luokan could still imagine the smug look on his face when a man with glasses was watching them. Sure enough, just as Yu Shi said, at this moment, Ichigo and the others had already rushed into the cave and were running towards Luokan and the others. Of course, they encountered obstacles along the way, but they will meet soon. At that time, there will be too many people, and there will be serious interference here. For Luo Chen, most people don't have that kind of strength. If they are all at the captain level, it would be better. To put it more seriously, these people are just holding him back. Even if you can see through my attack methods, but with so many attacks, can you really prevent them from happening? Not necessarily, so I felt more and more that I could play them in the palm of my hand. Destroy everything that can form a shadow, Luo Chen shouted, and the others immediately understood. Although they didn't know why, they also saw a clue. Indeed, there are too many unnatural rocks here. It looks like they were made by humans. It seems that there is indeed a solution for fallen dust. Ayasugawa thought to himself, and broke all the rocks around him without hesitation. Bang bang bang. With the sound of collapse, all the surrounding rocks turned into powder and disappeared. The attack power of the god of death is really terrifying. Diaresis what? Yushi didn't expect Luokan to really find a way to effectively defeat his own attack, so he lost his temper slightly and exclaimed. It's you. It was Ichigo, Renji, Rukia, Orihime, Chado who ran into the cave head-on from the cave, as well as Soul and the other three good King Zhao simulating souls. What's going on? It's full of these kinds of flying insects. It's annoying, and even if they attack, the number doesn't decrease. Ichigo shouted, hoping that Luo Chen and the others could give some hints. Hey, I'm so tired of being bored all the way, pay attention to your side first, and don't say anything. Renji shouted to Ichigo. Ninetails jumped from the ground, crawled on top of Luo Chen's head, and looked for any large rocks that would form shadows. Ellipsis. Chapter 1090. Luokan, isn't it? You are very powerful, but you missed a little bit. This is also the key to my ability to turn defeat into victory. Yushi calmed down a little, go on. The eyeballs exerted their force again, and a large amount of light was scattered, but this time, the attack no longer appeared from the shadow of the rock, but was born directly from the shadow of the crowd. It is impossible to guard against it. The shadow of people is an element that is easy to ignore. If Yushi's attack this time hadn't been prompted in advance, many people would have been hit. Ichigo, watch out for shadows. As soon as the voice fell, several tentacle-like black hand shadows stretched out from the shadows and attacked the crowd. Although they looked soft, there were a lot of them. Among them, there were only fingers as thick as thighs, which was too terrifying. What? Ichigo and others also benefited a lot from the battle in the Soul Society. They had accumulated a lot of experience in actual combat. When Luo Chen shouted, they immediately responded. 3 days to form a shield, I refuse. Orihime immediately started to block all the attacking arms from the outside of the shield, and then Rukia, Renji and Ichigo held the Zanpakuto and cut off their arms. The action is neat and tidy. Of course, not to mention Luokan's side. Now that you understand the attack method, don't say it's too easy to defend. Of course, this is when the opponent has no whole cards. Luo Chen was constantly thinking about it when he was on the defensive. This Yushi was very difficult to deal with among the soul hunters he had seen so far. Although his strength was not necessarily too powerful, his ability to strategize was definitely one of the best. Such a person is definitely one of the best. Certainly not all the cards in the hand will be played at the beginning, there must be hidden cards. Sure enough, just when everyone thought that Yushi was about to lose, he laughed out loud. Then I won't hide it anymore, let you see Catherine's real body and real body. Strength. As soon as the voice fell, Soyo's eyeballs began to move regularly, and they were divided into 8 groups, no longer occupying the entire space as before. The eyeballs converged from 8 directions, surrounded Luo Chen and others in the center, and began to emit more dazzling rays of light, which made people feel disgusted, and they wished they were punished. Everyone calm down. Let's see what moves he will have next. 1 second has passed, 2 seconds have passed. The world seems to have fallen into silence, caught in the quagmire of time suspension and not moving forward, but the heartbeat is particularly real. Boom! Next in an instant, the entire cave was shaking, as if it were about to collapse. Host, a huge amount of soul energy has been detected behind you. The system prompted. No. It's under you. When Luokan heard the words, he was puzzled for a while, and then he came to his senses. Just where they had forgotten, the meeting point of everyone's shadows was pure black. That was the abyss of shadows. Everyone, spread out. Catherine is coming out. Luo Chen was the first to run away, and everyone immediately ran around. Catherine emerged from the shadow, and was about 8 to 10 meters tall. It was black overall, with red patterns. It didn't look like a good stubble. Fortunately, its attack didn't hurt anyone. Ellipsis 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 dot. Chapter 1091. Is that Catherine's real body? Ayasagawa, Renji, Ranju Matsumoto and others were shocked by the sight in front of them. Although they have been a god of death for so many years, they have never seen anything, but this guy really hasn't been seen. Pass. Catherine roared, turned his huge body, and started waving his arms in the cave, making indiscriminate attacks. All the places he could see were the areas where the attack could reach. We can't prolong the time like this any longer. We should fight quickly, otherwise who knows what the hell those soul hunters are going to do. Matsumoto Ranju was very dissatisfied with the fact that he was being held back, and it's a second slower here. Zhang, maybe there will be danger in the Soul Society. Leave this to me, Renji roared, it's time for me to show my power, come out. King Baboon Snaketail Tilda Maru. That's the name of Renji's Zanpakuto, and it's also the move he used when he solved it. Just after he uttered this sound, the entire Zanpakuto changed. The blade began to glow, and then a giant snake whose length was completely incalculable appeared in front of everyone's eyes. The giant snake was entirely made of bones, and the head had lush hair, which was as deterrent as the mane of an adult lion. Immediately, Catherine, who had a huge body, became as small as a baby in front of Renji's Shiwaimaru, and the battle between the two giant beasts was about to begin. Ichigo looked at Renji's Shiwaimaru and sighed, if only I could solve it anytime, anywhere, I'm obviously not good enough now. Luokan looked at the seat in his hand and fell into contemplation. It shouldn't be. In terms of strength, Luokan has long been at the level of the captain, but the Nine Tails are still unable to perform the initial solution. Said it was too late, it was soon, the battle had already started, and Catherine's hands began to transform into various weapons, attacking Shiwaimaru's body. But Shiwaimaru wasn't jealous either. The powerful Reiatsu outside his body resisted the weapon's attack time and time again. The two giant beasts turned the cave into a world, but for the time being, no one was able to take advantage of it. Yushi was very angry. He kept ordering Ketheru to carry out various forced attacks. He also planned to use the extreme one-for-one method to give Shiwaimaru a deadly battle. He was already dazed by the battle. Katakana middle dot katakana middle dot katakana middle dot seeking flowers katakana middle dot 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 katakana middle dot. Baboon King Shiwaimaru. It's now. Renji gave an order, and the whole body of Baboon King Shiwaimaru protruded from the sword energy composed of Reiatsu, and shot through Catherine's defenseless body. Catherine didn't fully guard against the attack, and his back, chest, and arms were full, and he let out a howl of pain. 0. Catherine, Caesar, what's wrong with you? Follow my orders. Kill them now. Yushi was still ordering Caesaru, but Caesaru was obviously out of control. At this time, Karia appeared on Yushi's glasses and said, Yushi, you did a good job, you have successfully delayed the time, so now Catherine is needed again. I will let it explode, how many you can kill is a few. As for whether you can survive or not, it depends on luck. What? Karia, you can't do this to me. Before Yushi finished speaking, the out-of-control Katheru had already pinpointed Yushi's hiding range. 100 million. Chapter 1092. Just because he felt that the man in front of him was very annoying, he held Yushi in his hand, intending to kill him quickly, but at this moment, he felt that the energy in his body was obviously out of his control and began to swell. Luokan could see clearly that Catherine was dying soon, and he shouted, "Get cover, this doll is going to explode." Boom! A white light flashed, and a huge amount of 370 soul energy overflowed and began to run wild. The explosion filled the entire space, affecting all the rock and soil layers and various buildings around the cave, and a big collapse began. "Ah, where am I?" Ichigo touched his head. The explosion just now caused the ground to collapse suddenly, and he fell all the way down the collapse. Although it didn't kill him, his head was still dizzy. "There is light ahead, what is there?" Ichigo shook his head, holding the Zanpakuto, slowly approaching the light source, walking past a collapsed stone pillar, and finally came to a wide underground space. "It's you." A family immediately recognized the several soul hunters standing on the steps in front of them. The corners of their mouths were upturned with a hint of playfulness. "Yo, are you the only one here?" Karya said with a smile. Obviously he didn't put medical care in his eyes. After all, Ichigo was an apprentice-level god of death in his eyes, compared to the vice-captain. It's a long way off, although they don't know that the captain can't stop it when Ichigo breaks out. "What the hell are you doing? Why do you do these things?" Ichigo took up the Zanpakuto slowly. After all, although there was only one person, he didn't intend to back down. He believed that Luo-chen and the others would be safe. Karya also jumped down the steps, slowly approached Ichigo, and said, "Of course there is a reason. Those self-righteous death gods in the Soul Society just want to play with life, and they created us who are spurned by the three realms. Race. But what did we do wrong? Why were we treated so unfairly? These are all the faults of the Soul Society, and I will make them pay the price." Ichigo shouted, "But this is not a reason for you to trample other people's lives at will, this is not correct. I will stop you." "Oh, is that so?" Karya sprinted, and before Ichigo could react, he kicked Ichigo's abdomen and sent the bullet several meters away. "It's so unbearable, how can you stop us? Is that enough for me?" There was a burst of explosions in the distance, and the sound of falling dust slowly drifted out of the smoke, and then his figure and Jue appeared at the same time. "Good job Jue, this fireball is good." "It's you." Seeing Luokan, Karya corrected his attitude slightly, "But we don't plan to fight you here. Our goal is the Soul realm, right, the Quincy over there." Ichigo stood up again. He and Luokan followed Karya's line of sight together. At the entrance of the passage on the side between them, it was Yuryu Ishida who had not been seen for a long time. Ishida Yulong is wearing 4.5 clothes that he has never seen before, and a weapon he has never seen before. Seeing his new look, he must have regained the ability of a quencher. "I'm here to stop you." Ishida Yulong stood sonorously. He had already bent his bow and shot an arrow without hesitation. "Huh." The arrows attacked Karya. Ellipsis 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 dot. Chapter 1093. XXX. "Huh." Karya sneered, and easily dodged the arrow from Ishida Yuryu, which slid down Karya's cheek and set it on the ground. But don't look at the understatement of cleaning up, but the power is really not small. The ground that hits is directly released, and a small hole is exploded. If it hit directly just now, I am afraid that Karya will be more fortunate and less fortunate. Haha. Ishida Yulong. Quincy. Karya once again faced Ishida Yulong and said sarcastically, "Your arrow is still very weak, is this deliberately missed?" Ishida Yulong said blankly, "This is a warning, next time you won't have such good luck." After speaking, Ishida Yulong jumped down from the high platform, but he still maintained a vigilant posture at 22, realizing that he had never left Karya for a moment, and Ichigo and Luokan had also gathered towards the place where Ishida Yulong was. 3 people are currently the only fighting force. Humph. These little devils, let me come and meet them. Ma Chao said contemptuously. The excitement of absorbing spiritual energy for the first time has not completely disappeared, which caused Yushi to look contemptuous again. Karya made a stop gesture and said, "No hurry now, I think this fellow exterminator must have his own ideas, right? That death god must have told you something. Ishida Yulong was only slightly surprised at this time, but he quickly adjusted back to his state. The training from a young age allowed him to control his emotions so precisely. After all, this is not good for Quincy in battle. What? Ishida, who have you met? By the way, where have you been all these days? Ichigo remembered at this moment that he had not seen Ishida for quite some time. Ishida nodded to show his understanding, and then said, as the soul hunter said, I have been cultivating by myself since I lost the ability to be a Quincy master, but I haven't made any progress. At this time, Miss Nianmeng, the god of death, is here. Found me. Nianmeng. Luokan raised his eyebrows, thinking that it might be Newly who sent Nianmeng to Ishida. After all, Newly, a mad scientist, has an unparalleled understanding of the Quincy in the soul realm. Then what did she tell you? Luo Chen asked. Ishida replied, Nianmeng has helped me a lot, especially this one. Ishida pointed to the bracelet on his arm. It was a silver-white thing with a very strong aura of a spiritual child. Not everything. This thing is what she gave me. It is something that the Technical Research Bureau of the Soul Society has preserved for hundreds of years. It is a special decoration for the Quincy. It can help me to have more connections with the spiritual sun. Plus, my father's training, I have barely recovered my strength these days. That's great, Ishida, Ichigo said happily. Kariya patiently listened to their speeches and said, so what, even if you don't have two gods of death and one Quincy, can you defeat us with a disparity in our numbers? Not to mention that there are two of them. Half-hearted. What did you say? Ichigo knew that he was offended, so he was very angry. He shouted, you come down, I will show you my strength, my Zanpakuto is very powerful, isn't it? Falling dust. Ellipsis 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 dot. Chapter 1094. Luokan shook his head, he obviously didn't take the seat in his eyes, and said, Kariya, we are here to stand in your way. I can see it all, you haven't finished that door, have you? Can't reach the soul realm from that door. In other words, now you have been cornered by us. Kariya also shook his head and said, then this is what you don't understand, Yulong Ishida, are you right? Stop holding that bow, and tell me your answer. Ichigo could no longer listen to his babbling words, so he rushed up directly, sweat left on Ishida Yulong's cheeks. Luokan noticed the abnormality, and thought, how much has this soul realm created? You moth, who is also a Quincy and a soul hunter, it's really troublesome, isn't it going to steal someone to wipe your butt in the end? At this time, the battle between Ichigo and Kariya has already begun. Ichigo held the Zanpakuto and kept slashing towards Kariya, but Kariya's movement was as agile as Shunpo and Quincy's Felion, but it could be seen that he did not use these two whichever of them, he has the help of the wind beside him. Luokan shouted, Ichigo, be careful with his doll, he is using his doll now tilde. Ichigo understands and becomes vigilant. After all, I still don't know what the ability of Kariya's doll is. Although it seems to control the wind, it is not easy to draw a conclusion now. Maybe it will suffer a big loss when the round was against Koga. Luokan didn't mean to take action, unless there were soul hunters on the opposite side who wanted to take action. Now it's a one-on-one situation between Ichigo and Kariya, and Luokan can't do anything right now. After all, the chance for the protagonist to grow is still to be given. Haha. Is this how powerful the half-dead Deputy Reaper is? I really understand it. Kariya was able to do it with ease. When Ichigo was being played around, he still had the opportunity to ridicule. Ichigo, Orihime, Rukia, and the others were all there in the hole that didn't collapse, and the vice-captains, Matsumoto Renki and Ayasagawa also came out of the collapsed ground. Obviously did not expect this matter, he moved the real thing in an instant. Boy, I won't play with you anymore. After all, this is not our main battlefield, nor should it be the last cemetery of our soul hunters. Taking advantage of Ichigo's inattention, Kariya went around behind him, and then start the violent output. Bang bang bang. Ichigo's body was shot several meters away, and the Zanpakuto also fell to the side, looking very embarrassed. Ishida Yuryu once again aimed the arrow at Kariya. Diaresis wait. Now is not the time. Kariya picked up Ichigo's Zanpakuto and laughed. I'm curious, what would happen if the owner of this sword was killed by his own sword? Scene. What? Ichigo stood up with difficulty, gritted his teeth and insisted not to fall down. Good jows, the attack just now really wounded him, but he was even more angry that his Zanyu was held in the hands of the enemy and laughed at. Luokan put away his uninhibited expression of watching a play, and knew that it was time for him to make a move. What? Ishida Yulong, didn't you want to kill us yourself? Not only you, but even your friends will be hurt in this place. In the next instant, the three of them moved at the same time. Ellipsis. Chapter 1095. Immediately, Ishida Yulong suddenly pulled the bow, infused his entire body's spiritual power into the bow and arrow, and shot it out, but his target was not Kariya. What? The others were blinded, wondering why Ishida strayed so far from the target. Such a gap was simply a major mistake. But this arrow is not without a target. It shoots straight at the soul hunters in the distance, but the target doesn't seem to be them. That's it. The door. Someone exclaimed. That's right, Ishida Yulong's arrow didn't attack anyone, and it didn't miss, but just pierced through the door that Kariya and the others built. Gone without a trace. The door turned out to be just an unpretentious quadrilateral box, with colorful brilliance flashing in the middle, just like an unpretentious movie projection screen. But after Ishida's arrow was hit, the middle of the door began to change. Everyone could feel a familiar reiatsu, and they instantly understood that there was the soul realm, and this was the gateway to the corpse. The gate of the soul world. At the same time, Ichigo was not affected, but at the moment when Kariya was distracted by the glow of the gate, he strengthened his mind. I will defeat you here. Zanyu, what are you doing? Ichigo yelled, and before Kariya didn't react, he grabbed the Zanyu sword again, but he really grabbed the blade. PFF'd. Under the amazed expressions of everyone, Ichigo inserted Zanyu fiercely into his body. Zanyu. Let me prove it to you this time. Buzz. Everything seemed to be suspended in time, and Ichigo's feeling fell into the abyss again. He understood that this was the inevitable part of Zanyu's appearance. Zanyu's humanoid form appeared, and the image of an uncle with black clothes, black hair, black sunglasses, and black stubble appeared in front of Yihu's eyes, and this space was extremely familiar. Inside, what happened to Ichigo is unknown to anyone outside. Although it feels like a few minutes have passed in one household, in reality, a second has not passed. At the same time, Luo Chen and Qiu Wei had also arrived. Qiu Wei took advantage of Kariya's stupefied effort, and a fireball passed by, and Kariya's hand instinctively released Zanyu in pain. Not good. Let's kick out the dust, let Kariya kick out, in front of Ichigo. Although I don't know what kind of brainstorm Ichigo is going through right now, he must not be disturbed now. Damn, Kariya spat out a mouthful of blood and planned to flee towards the door. You can't escape. Dissolution, Tiansuo Zanyu. Ichigo. Everyone's eyes widened, looking at Ichigo behind Luo Chen. His aura had changed, and upon closer inspection, Zanyu in Ichigo's hand had completely changed shape. Just like Renji's Shuei Maru, the Zanpakuto after the dissolution can be enlarged, or it can change shape like Kuchiki Byakuya's Senbon Sakura, while Ichigo's Zanpakuto has become more slender and attached. A layer of mysterious black. Solution. Kariya was taken aback. He didn't expect that the deputy god of death would realize that the dog just realized the solution, but he didn't panic too much. Ichigo doesn't care about 3, 7 and 21. Since the enemy is right in front of you, it's enough to bring the dissolution. If you can defeat one, it's one. Ellipsis. Chapter 1096. Boom. The powerful Tiansuo Zanyu is like an artifact in the hands of a guardian, and its power is radiant. Just an ordinary attack has already cracked the ground, and the spiritual pressure is even more captain level, so terrifying. Karya struggled to dodge the attacks again and again, and he didn't get hit, but he was also very close to the door, and those soul hunters had already jumped into it. Ha ha ha. Death. Quincy. You guys are really good, but now it's my victory. Ishida Yuryu, I'm waiting for you. Karya said proudly, I knew you would do it. What do you mean? Ichigo asked. He didn't believe Ishida Yulong would betray them and help the soul hunters. Karya went on to say, this gate is just a semi-finished product at the beginning, because we must use certain means to reach the soul realm through them, and this means happens to be possessed by the Quincy. That's right, it's the spiritualization of the Quincy master, but I have my plans. Ishida Yulong said a sentence. Yes, just because of your spirit-like arrow as a primer, this gate has a safe fellow, and can reach the soul realm. See you there, Quincy. After saying this, when he was escaping from Ichigo's solution, he turned over and got into the door with the help of Reiatsu, and disappeared. Disappeared. The scene was silent, and no one could understand what was going on with the series of operations just now, why one household suddenly understood, why Ishida Yulong wanted to help the soul hunter, and other questions circling in their minds, bewildered. Hey, Ishida, what do you mean? How can you let them go? Ichigo solved the problem and came to Ishida to ask. I have my plans. The strength of our Quincy master also depends to a certain extent on the spiritual children that can be used around the body. Ishida Yulong explained hastily. In addition to these equipment of mine, my current strength depends to a greater extent on the density of spiritual sons. In the human world, my strength is indeed not good, but in the corpse and soul world, I have the confidence to defeat those soul hunters. At this time, Yi also rushed over, and when the top of the tower reached the words of Ishida Yulong, he sighed and said, but you must understand that although the concentration of spirits is high in the soul realm, it is better to say that everything in the soul realm is composed of spiritual sons, but you are not the only ones who have gained growth in the soul realm. Katakana middle dot katakana middle dot katakana middle dot seeking flowers katakana middle dot 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 katakana middle dot. I know that the same is true for Death God and Soul Hunter, but I am confident that if I try again this time, I will definitely be able to defeat them. Ishida Yulong said his wish aloud. 0. Yi sighed and said, well, after all, it's not just a problem in the human world anymore. The soul realm has also sent people to participate. They really can't stay out of this incident. Yi looked at Matsumoto Ranki, Ace Kawamura and others who came to reinforce and said, and the four of them also sighed. After all, this soul hunter was the one who stabbed himself in the corpse and soul world, so no one else could blame him. At this time, Luokan stood up and said, then let's go to the soul realm now and bring soul hunters to a circle. Don't look at me all the time, but I'm actually the one who wants to vent my anger the most. 100 million. Chapter 1097. So, everyone has no objection. Yi turned around and said to everyone. What it mainly looked at were Matsumoto Ranki, Gongjin and Kira. After all, they were the support of the Soul Society, and they made the primary handler for the secondary event. I have no opinion. After all, this is the soul world's own fault, but I didn't expect the big figures in the soul world to be so skilled. Ranju Matsumoto scratched his hair and said helplessly. Yi continued to question Ishida, although you shouldn't be blamed for this, but with your methods and equipment, it seems that Ali doesn't belong to the human world. Is it really Namori? Ishida Yulong said, it should be right, Nyan Meng just acts as a messenger. After all, it is Niuli himself who is behind the control. This Niuli looks quite clever at first, how come he was put together by those soul hunters here? This method he came up with is a double-edged sword. Seeing that everyone's discussion had come to an end, Luo Chen said, then let's go through this gate to the soul realm. It's not too late, hurry up, body. At this time, Matsumoto Ranju and other 4 deputy teams said, we will go back to the team after returning to the soul world, and we can't act with you, but as long as we are fighting soul hunters, we will always meet. Maybe we can still fight side by side. Yi said, Well, after all, this is also a rule. You should go to the spiritual court to report first. I will also bring these little ghosts, and Luo Chen, and have my own plans. Luokan, Ichigo, and Yaiki passed through the gate once, and the people behind followed closely. Soon, the place returned to peace. Soul hunters have already crossed the gate and reached the soul realm. Our purpose is the soul court, but it is also the entire soul world. We don't have to stay here in this street of souls. It is better to say that the power of this gate is only enough for us to enter the street of souls. Karya explained, here act separately first. Koga follows me, you all act first, and I will call you again later. Ma Chao shouted, ha ha ha, is this the soul realm? It's really comfortable, I don't know why, I feel like there is endless power in my body. They each turned into a beam of light, and separated towards the surrounding area. Before leaving, Karya reminded, this is the base camp of the God of Death, you all be careful, don't when I am going to attack the spirit court, you have already been arrested. Defeated, it is a great shame. Yes. Soon, they both walked through Liuhun Street at an extremely fast speed, gradually losing sight of each other, just land here. Boom. The silhouettes of Karya and Koga landed on the street of Liuhun Street in a burst of earthquake and smoke accurately. Prior to this, the Soul Society had observed that an unusual force had forcibly broken through into the soul world, and a captain-level meeting had been held. Everyone, it's been confirmed that those breaths are the intruder's calamity, the soul hunter. Yamamoto Yuan Lu Rongyu said seriously. Hitsugaya stood up and said, the soul hunter has arrived, and the vice captain I sent over has also told me about their coming back. This matter is also my responsibility, and the soul hunter has not been solved in the human world. Ellipsis. Chapter 1098. XXX. Yamamoto Yuan Lu Rongyu waved his hand and said, this matter is now a matter of the entire Soul Society, and you don't need to blame yourself, but this time it's up to you to take the lead. The other teams should also be prepared. The current corpse soul world is just in a special period, and many major changes may be coming. Yes. The captains took the orders, went to configure their own territory, and made defense preparations, while Hitsugaya didn't want to delay, and went directly to Liuhun Street with his men. He planned to kill the soul hunter's attempt in the cradle, it's best to eliminate them completely before they break into the spiritual court. And in Ryahun Street, Karya and Koga had already met the Shinigami who was sent by the first wave of 22 to investigate. Huh, what? Is this a soul hunter? Why does it look like a normal thing, and it can't be compared to an ordinary god of death? The leader was a character who looked at him as Ali, but he was in the Guardian 10. Not a small role in the three teams. Just as he was speaking, many gods of death had already surrounded the two of them. What? Is this your welcome ceremony? Daruku. Koga was not afraid, he called softly, and Daruku appeared. What? Soul hunters are cowards and dare not use their own strength to decide the outcome. Koga ignored him, but felt that this person was not even an obstacle, at most an appetizer, so Koga looked around and smiled. I saw that the surroundings of Koga suddenly began to emit Reiatsu. Although it was not very strong, it was increasing little by little. That's it. The gods of death widened their eyes. They couldn't believe that the spiritual pressure of the person in front of them was rising and surpassed them. Come on, he is absorbing those spiritual suns for his own use. Sure enough, all the gods of death took a closer look, and Koga had absorbed all the spirits floating in the soul realm space into his body. Then only he signaled that Daruku could attack. Daruku is welcome, its hands have turned into gun barrels, and the bullets, composed of one body fly out of it. These gods of death are not very strong, many of them are rookies and apprentices who can't even understand the beginning, and even weaker than a guardian, they can only be cannon fodder. So, within a few seconds, all the gods of death around him had been knocked down, unconscious and in a coma. The injured hand couldn't get up again. That person turned out to be a bear commander. Damn, is there no god of death? He was stunned by the sight in front of him. This kind of strength can only be achieved at the level of a vice captain. Let's go, Koga. Karya dismissed him casually, clapping his hands, signaling Koga to leave. Koga nodded, put Daruku away, and said, I really didn't expect that we could have such an increase in the Soul realm. When Luo Chen and the others set foot on the land of Soul realm, Matsumoto Ranju and the others left to report to their respective captains. Ichigo asked Yoichi, Mr. Yoichi, what should we do? Yi replied, now go to Konghi with me first, Soul Hunter. The whole thing about the hunter still needs a long-term plan. At least the 13th team of the Guardian of the Soul World is not enough to be defeated by them in a short period of time. Chapter 1099. Juwei crawls on Luokan's shoulder. It has experienced so many battles and is a little tired. Now it is time to take a breath. Luokan strokes Juwei and plans to follow Yi to find Konghi. Yoichi took Ichigo, Rukia, Inoue, Ishida, Chato, Lilin, and Hirohito to the suburbs outside Ryahun Street, but couldn't find the house of Sora. This guy has moved again. Every time he moves, he will change his style. Although he's used to it, it's really hard to find it. Yi sighed helplessly. Inoue asked, Mr. Yaiki, what should we do? How can we find Miss Kong? Luokan said, you can only find it slowly. Yi, you should know the rules of Konghi, right? Don't tell me that she moved her house all by her mood. Yi sighed. The only thing I can be sure of is that she won't move to Liuhun Street, so she can find it outside Liuhun Street. If you're lucky, you might be able to find it in one day. Everyone was speechless, so they had to start walking along the outside of Liuhun Street, starting from the sun rising 3 times, finding the setting sun, and then reaching the moonlight, and by the dim moonlight, everyone continued to search. Ah, I found it. It's there. I saw a house standing on the land near the water, with 4 big characters written on it, Zibo Kong. Huh, Luo Chen breathed a sigh of relief, but she didn't expect to find Konghi's residence after all night, but she didn't change her appearance this time, but she was lucky in misfortune, otherwise she might not be able to recognize it. Let's hurry over there, Yi commanded. She had many things to ask Konghi and get her help. After going through a lot of hardships, Luo Chen and the others finally sat down and talked with Konghi face to face. So, has the Soul Hunter come yet? That guy Niyuri is usually quite shrewd, but this time he was put together. Kong Crane said, looking at Ishida. Ishida's firm eyes did not change, and Yi continued. I mainly want to ask you to help investigate the origin of the Soul Hunter, the accident 1,000 years ago, and let these guys use this place as a stronghold. After all, the street is very big. If you can agree, it will be of great help. Konghi smiled slightly, looked at Luo Chen and said, of course, for Luo Chen's sake, and Yi's face, of course. Luokan smiled awkwardly, but Juwei pricked up his ears. Konghi said, Diaresis, let's stay here tonight. I'll arrange for you to have meals first, then accommodation. Everyone quickly left and went to the restaurant according to Konghi's instructions, leaving only Luo Chen, Yi and Konghi. So is there anything else? As long as Mr. Luo Chen said, I can consider helping you. Yi looked at Konghi with a little dissatisfaction, poked Luo Chen sharply, and said, she called you, hurry up. Luokan scratched his head. Juwei jumped off his shoulders, walked nonchalantly good Jiao Hao, to the middle of the two. Luokan said, it's not a commission, it's just that there is a god of death in the camp of soul hunters, Ichinos. He is the patron of soul hunters. So you should also pay attention. Besides the soul hunters, there may be other spies in the god of death, which may be dangerous. Luo Chen warned. He didn't understand why the god of death named Ichinos would give soul hunters help. Chapter 1100. Maybe he participated in the planning of this invasion of the Soul Society, and the method may have been revealed by him. Yi added. Konghi rubbed his chin and said, oh, so that's the case, or Nyayongli might not have been caught. It's Luokan, are you worried about me? Yi stood up, dragged Luo Chen and walked out, saying, "Oh, it's time to eat. Luo Chen should come to eat. Let's go and find Yihu and them." Time passed quickly, the night passed so peacefully, and I didn't hear much rumors about soul hunters. I don't know where those soul hunters went. But Luokan could feel that this was the tranquility before the storm, but all worries were not unnecessary. Now Luokan can still accurately locate the position of each soul hunter through the system, which he did not expect. So it was early in the morning, everyone gathered at the door, and Luo Chen handed out a map to everyone, saying, "This is the location of each soul hunter. It has just been updated. If you go now, maybe it will be there. Far away." "So powerful. How did you get it?" Yi asked, "But you do have such power, it's amazing." Luokan continued, "This time is different from the previous situation. This time, in the soul realm, there are a lot of death spirits patrolling, so the danger of separate actions is greatly reduced, so we can divide them into groups and defeat these soul hunters separately. It's not unfortunate that Mr. Luokan can easily do things that we can't do. That's it, let's yearn for it and admire it." Yi's eyes were almost filled with love. However, Ishida Yulong obviously did not agree with the grouping. He said, "Luokan, thank you, but this time I plan to come alone. Let's make the grouping. If you pass by my battlefield, don't interfere." After speaking, Ishida Yulong left alone, and everyone sighed. Tone, but also expressed understanding. After all, Ishida Yulong shoulders something heavier than them. Rukia also expressed her intention to leave the team. "After all, I am a member of the 13th team of the Guardian. I will return to the team when I come to the Soul Realm. I will talk about the future after I return to the team." Luokan nodded, but also gave her a map and reminded, "You are alone, you must pay attention to safety. You haven't fully recovered yet, hide from those soul hunters." Rukia nodded and said, "Well, you should also pay attention to safety." After a while of greeting, everyone split up. Ishida Yulong and Rukia were separated, Luokan was alone, and the rest were in groups of 2 or 3, so it was good to have someone to take care of. Even without Mr. Fallen Chen's map, we can still feel the soul hunters, so don't look down on us. Lilin protested weakly. Juwei stared at Lilin, Tibetan Renjiba, and let out a disdainful breath. It would not allow anyone to refute Luokan. Luokan smiled slightly and said, "After all, you are a phantom soul specially made by Mr. Urahara. If you find anything, release the Reiatsu and I will rush over immediately. Then let's go."